When you leave a 17-year-old alone, unsupervised, they get into trouble. Do you understand that?
Yes.
This is a bill for therapy.
She's been in counseling ever since, and I have a letter from her psychiatrist stating that.
It's your bill. Next time you stay home with your daughter. If you paid $2,600 for the car a year and a half ago, I've taken off $600 for the year that she drove the car, year and some months that she drove the car, leaving the value of the car $2,000. I consider both of you responsible. You responsible and you responsible for what happened to the car. Do you understand?
Yes.
So, she's going to pay some and you're going to pay some. Is that reasonable?
Yes.
Good. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,000. That's all.
Your Honor, this is case number 372 on the calendar in the matter of Watson versus Martinez. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Ma'am, have a seat, please.
Ms. Watson, you claim a loan to the defendant in the amount of $1,400 for a couple of things. To bring his daughter out for a visit and then to help pay his mortgage. In addition to that, you claim that he defrauded you out of $500, some sort of an investment. You want that money back. You want a total of $1,900.
Yes.
Mr. Martinez says that he did, in fact, take some money from you, but that money was a gift, that you insisted upon giving it to him because he had fallen on some difficult financial times, and that the $500 investment that you made in his business was just that, an investment that didn't work out, and you lost your money. How do you know him?
We met at a charity ball, and I met him during a function.
When?
I believe December of 2000.
When did you first give him money?
July of 2001.
What kind of relationship did you have with him between December of 2000 and July of 2001?
We were involved very closely in that we were friends and intimately associated.
You considered yourself his female friend?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now tell me about the first loan.
The largest loan was $1,000 because he was behind on a mortgage payment.
Tell me about it.
Well, I just felt sorry for him and went ahead and told him that he begged me for the money, and I told him...
Tell me. Let's start from the beginning. He came to you, you were out for dinner, you were out someplace, he said to you, I'm behind in my mortgage. I want to know exactly how it came about.
No, he had been telling me along that he had had some money problems, and his girlfriend wasn't able to help him with his money problems, and that she was taking a lot of money.
So he had a girlfriend?
Yes, he has a girlfriend.
Well, what was he doing with you if he had a girlfriend?
Well, we were just really more friends than anything else, and I would give him a lot of advice, and our relationship was in that he's a truck driver. We'd talk over the phone a lot, and it was over the phone that he told me that really where he needed the money. So it wasn't over dinner or anything. That,
Go ahead.
And so I did have the money wired or electronically transferred.
No, I want you to tell me about it.
Oh, about our relationship?
No, about the $1,000, madam.
The $1,000, I did go ahead and have it wired.
I believe that you gave him $1,000. I want to know the circumstances surrounding you giving him the $1,000.
Well, I loaned him the $1,000.
That's what you say?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, since I'm not getting it from you, I'm going to go to Mr. Martinez. Mr. Martinez, she gave you $1,000. Tell me how that came about, sir.
She wired it to my account. She took $1,000, gave it to me. I told her I needed some help with the bills, and
You told her you needed help with the bills, and...
I said I'm behind. She was away. I was by myself. So I needed some money. Didn't have no help. She offered to help.
What did she say?
She says if you need
look at me.
If you need some money, I have money, and if you need to borrow some or whatever, it's here for you if you need it.
Good. And you said I need to borrow it.
I need about $1,000 to pay my bills.
So she sent you the money. So why didn't you pay it? Look here.
At that time, I didn't have any money. It went on.
That doesn't mean that it's not a loan, sir. That means that you didn't have the money then to pay her back.
Didn't have the money to pay her back and couldn't pay her back.
That doesn't mean it wasn't a loan.
Well, if it was a loan, I would have had to sign some kind of receipt or some kind of paperwork saying that, hey, you know...
You just told me you borrowed the money from her. You used that word. I asked her if I could borrow some money from her.
Okay. Maybe I should have used a different word then.
That's not... Maybe you should have, but that's the word that you used.
Okay. I took the $1,000 from
You borrowed it.
Okay.
And you didn't have money to pay her back. That doesn't mean you don't owe it to her. What's next?
Well, Your Honor, the reason...
Shh, I didn't ask you. I said, what's next? $6,000 I have. Hello?
Oh, no, Your Honor, I'm sorry. I thought you I think the reason he didn't have the $1,000.
I don't care what the reason is.
Yes,
why he
ma'am.
didn't have the $1,000. He owes you so far $1,000.
Yes, ma'am.
What's
what
next?
else? Well, there was $500 for the investment.
I don't care about the
toys.
investment. You were dumb enough to give him $500 for an investment. That's your problem. Let's
Yes,
go to
ma'am.
the next thing.
I think he didn't have the money because Michelle wasn't there to give it to him. Okay.
Can I
Michelle
say-
was
Are you
in
finished
jail.
with Are you finished with the $1,000?
Yes,
Is that
ma'am.
all he owes you, $1,000?
No, ma'am.
Then I want you to get to it. I didn't ask you anything else.
All right. There's the $500 in the e-toys.
Just a
and-
second. Miss Watson,
Yes.
you're not paying attention to me.
I'm sorry.
I told you, if you were dumb enough to give him invest in a business for $500 with him, and he didn't have enough money to pay his own rent, you don't get that money back.
Yes, ma'am.
You don't. Good. Now, so far, he has admitted, reluctantly, to owing you $1,000. Does he owe you any more money?
Yes, ma'am, he does. But he is such
You
a...
want to get to it.
Yes, ma'am.
What is it? What was it for? When did you give it to him? Before I
He is such a scoundrel that...
That's it. I'm finished with you, Miss Watson. I'm finished with you. I asked you a simple question. The simple question is, we got to the $1,000. He owes you the $1,000.
Yes, ma'am.
He doesn't owe you $500 that you invested with him. Is there any other money that he owes you? What you have to say is yes, how much it was, what you gave it to him for. If you're not going to answer that question directly, Miss Watson, I'm going to give you an award of $1,000 and say goodbye. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am, I do. He does owe me another $900.
No, he doesn't. You want to tell me what the $900 is for?
I do have documentation on monies that were given to him when he did ask me for a loan, and I do have FYI when I did fax him the information. And
Miss
then,
Watson, is there something wrong with you?
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You invested in a bad deal, period. End of discussion. That leaves $400 left, not $900. Do you understand?
yes, ma'am.
And later today,
I don't remember getting hit. I got hit 3 times, actually.
Started drinking some liquor. Then Nita started wilding.
She said what?
Wilding.
What is that?
Acting crazy.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Rebecca Watson says former lover Larry Martinez owes for a series of loans and for an investment she made in his business.
Your lawsuit is for $1,900.
Yes, ma'am.
$1,000 loan, something for a plane ticket or something to bring his daughter out,
That's
and then
correct.
Quiet. And then $500 that you say you invested with him. I've already told you I'm discounting the $500. He does not owe you the $500. You invested in a bad deal. Period. End of discussion. That leaves $400 left, not $900. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, what was the other $400 for?
The other $400 was in petty cash and plane ticket that he needed to
I'm not interested in petty cash.
get his daughter
I'm
back
not
to
interested
New
in
York.
petty cash. What was the plane ticket?
The plane ticket was about $300.
What do you mean about $300?
It was $300 because I gave him
Show me.
$100 for being
Show
able
me.
to get in the airport.
Show me the $300 plane ticket. Show me where it was. Where did you buy the $300 plane ticket?
No, I gave him the money as a loan because he needed to get his daughter from New York.
How much was
Or
the
to New
plane
York.
ticket to get your daughter from New York to wherever?
About $250. That has nothing to do with the money that she gave me. Was $1,000 towards my bills. That money came out of my pocket for the plane ticket.
So she didn't give you $250. You have any evidence that you put that plane ticket on your credit card?
No, ma'am.
Good. So you got $1,000, Miss Watson. That's it, period. That's what you say you owe her? That's what you borrowed. Is that right? Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Perfect. Goodbye.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
There were, times that she was in jail and she was gone and not able to be with him. I didn't know all this at the time. I didn't even know he had a girlfriend.
Well, I was away. The cat played.
Larry is a real scoundrel, and he's got a woman at every port.
I thought she was my friend, and she was cheating on me. Both of them.
You learn from your mistakes. I'm not going to be doing that anymore.
Your Honor, this is case number 397 on the calendar in the matter of Rogers versus Stowers. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Gentlemen, have seats.
Mrs. Rogers, you hired the defendant as a nanny, and she worked for you for a very short period of time before quitting. It is your claim that she owes you some money because you made travel arrangements for your family along with the defendant, and it was, you claim, her agreement that if she did not go on these trips with you, or this trip with you, she would pay you for her ticket. Ms. Stowers says that she quit after a couple of weeks because her job responsibilities increased. She wasn't happy about that, and that she did agree to reimburse you for any of your out-of-pocket expenses, which she did by sending you a check for change of name or whatever that had to be done to change the tickets. So why don't you tell me when she came to work for you?
She came to work for me in October, early October. And
she was hired as a result of an ad that you put in the paper?
Yes. Yeah.
And what were her job responsibilities?
At the time when I hired her, I explained that the job was a very busy job, that it wasn't for anybody that just wanted to babysit or sit and watch TV, that it was for a person that had a lot of energy, and it was a lot of laundry. I have 3 very busy kids running around, making messes all the time, and also that we had trips planned.
All right, 3 kids and laundry is what I hear so far.
And house cleaning. House cleaning nanny was the ad that I put in the paper.
You have a copy of the paper?
I'm afraid I don't, Your Honor.
What did the ad say?
It was for a mother's helper, and with light housekeeping, 3 kids.
Yes.
Your Honor, I never said anything about light house cleaning. I made it very clear that it was heavy house cleaning from the very beginning.
What was the ad?
The ad was for mother's helper, house cleaning, child care, homework, kind of a variety of positions.
Oh, not in the ad, madam. Miss Rogers, don't make it up as you're going. I've read lots of ads for mother's helpers, nannies, housekeepers. They don't go into homework. That doesn't happen. Yeah, and you don't have a copy of the ad?
No, I'm afraid I don't, but it did say schoolwork in the ad.
How large a house do you have?
Not a large house, Your Honor. It's
Why don't you tell me how large a house you have?
2-bedroom rambler with hardwood floors.
And you have 3 children. How old are they?
2, 5, and 11.
Do you work outside of the home?
No, I don't.
So it's really helping you?
Yes, it is. But most of the, I must add that most of the responsibility of the house cleaning is left to my mother's helper. And I make that very clear when I interview them, that I like to spend more time at my daughter's school and with her doing homework. And what I needed my helper to do is help keep the house clean and run the kids around to their activities.
And how much were you paying her for this job?
At that time...
How much were you being paid?
$1,500 a month.
And how many days a week were you working?
5 days a week.
How many hours a day?
It was usually 8 hours a day, sometimes more.
Okay. Now tell me about the lawsuit.
Okay. When I hired her, I made it quite clear that we had...
Just tell me what you said. Sorry, don't tell me what you made clear.
Okay, I said that we're taking these trips, and I need to make sure that you're happy with your job before we buy the tickets, because once we buy the tickets, we're locked in. And so I waited 3 weeks before I asked her how she was liking the job and if everything was cool for her. And she said it was, and that she was happy and that she was going to go on the trips with us. So at that time, my husband made the travel arrangements on the computer while we were all standing in the kitchen. My husband printed this out and gave her a copy of each of the trips, so she had a copy of her own, explaining when we would be gone and when we'd be coming back and where we would be going.
Go ahead.
And so everything was fine for a while. Nicole seemed like she was very quiet. And so I kept asking her, is everything okay, Nicole? Are you sure you're happy with your job and everything? She says, yeah, I'm fine. 2 to 3 weeks went by, and it was payday. And my husband paid Nicole, and she left, and everything was fine. And then the next morning, she called in sick. The next day was her day off. The following day, when she should have been there at 1 o'clock, she called me at 1 o'clock. She said that she'd found that the job was just too much work for her and that she wanted to spend more time with her boyfriend, John. At that time, I said, that's terrible because you're just leaving me hanging here. What am I going to do with the kids tonight? She knew I had an important engagement that I had to go to that evening. And I ended up having to call my parents. They're 72 years old, and have them come up to the house so they could watch the 3 children for me. And at that time, I said, Nicole, what about the plane tickets? We can't change the names on those. What are we going to do? And she said, I have the money in the bank, and I'm really sorry about leaving you hanging like this, but I'm going to reimburse you for the money. And she said that she wanted me to bring her a copy of the tickets. 2 days later, she gave me this letter and a copy of the check that she decided. She kind of added up what she felt she owed, which was not accurate.
Just a second.
Okay.
Okay, and she sent you a check for $172, which you didn't cash. Is
No.
that right? Okay. All right, now, what do you claim she owes you for?
I claim that she owes me for the third trip that we could not change the name.
Third trip is to where?
It's to, Darren, was it to Miami?
Fort Lauderdale.
To Fort Lauderdale.
When is that trip scheduled for?
That is April.
April 3rd or 4th.
April 3rd. I was under the impression I could not change the name on the first ticket, and this is a document saying that the electronic, these cannot be changed, and that was why I was under the impression that she would owe me for that full amount on the first ticket that she paid me. $50, was that correct, Darren?
Yes.
But you could change the name.
We found that we could change the name.
Right, okay.
So that's not what we're suing her for.
All right, Nicole?
Yes.
Let me hear your end of the story.
Well, when I first started working for him, it was a nanny job. I was there to take care of the kids and clean up after the kids. It changed, like, after about 2 weeks, it changed from watching the kids and taking care of the kids to being their maid, basically. I was mopping their floors, cleaning their bathrooms, ironing, cleaning up after the dog, everything. The second day I worked there, she asked me if I wanted to go on the trip with them to the Caribbean in January. And I said yes, because it's 3 months away. I was doing okay in the job, like it felt comfortable, but it was only the second day. So I agreed to go with them on that trip, and I agreed to pay for the trip if I backed out, if I quit, which I paid for when I quit. As far as the one in April...
How much was that, the change of name on that trip in January?
Well, they gave me, I have the letter here that they wrote me, and he originally wanted me to pay $359 for the ticket, but I called Alaska Air to see how much the ticket was, and I found out that he bought it with his mileage, and he only paid $5 for it.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I can understand why she quit. Easy. It was a lot of work, and you were not paying her a lot of money.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Leslie Rogers says former nanny Nicole Stowers agreed to accompany her family on a vacation. Leslie says right before the trip, Nicole quit.
How did he pay $5 for it?
Because he used his miles off his card, so he paid $5 for the ticket.
Is that right, sir?
I bought 6 tickets.
Is that correct?
2 of the tickets I paid $364. 4 of the tickets I bought with miles. I'm not suing her for that ticket at all.
I understand that you're not suing her for that ticket. You did write her a note, however, that says, Nicole, you can still use these tickets for a round trip to Miami, round trip to Fort Lauderdale, and the Miami trip cost $359, and the Fort Lauderdale trip cost $365, which indicated that you expected her to pay for these.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. I understand why, listen, I understand that you are annoyed, Miss Rogers, that she left you in a lurch without giving you adequate notice. I understand that. I also understand that for $375, you're asking her to not only act as the nanny, but you're asking her to do house cleaning, not light house cleaning, house cleaning. It was a lot of work, and you were not paying her a lot of money. So I can understand why she quit. Easy. And you did not have any prearrangement with her, even according to your own testimony, Miss Rogers. No prearrangement with her that she was going to pay for this Fort Lauderdale trip. According to your own testimony, what you said was when you called her afterwards, she said she feels really badly and she's going to reimburse you for what you were out of pocket on the ticket. That's what you just testified to. That's what you just testified to. You said you were standing around. You said, shall I book these tickets? She said, yes, you can book these tickets. And we were all standing around in the kitchen and we booked the tickets. Then you said after she quit, and you called her and you said, you're leaving me in a lurch. She said, yes, I understand. And what about the tickets? And she said, we'll reimburse you for whatever out of pocket was. There was not a prearrangement when you bought these tickets, especially in April, that you bought in when? October or November? You don't have indentured servants these days, Miss Rogers. Something could happen in 6 months or 8 months' time. So if your husband bought tickets on miles, maybe you should have saved his miles and bought the one for Fort Lauderdale. I think she's a very nice young lady for sending you $172. If I were you, I would cash the check. Goodbye.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
She was lying and saying that it was more work than I had told her from the beginning, and that's not true.
If I wouldn't have quit on payday, I would have been the one suing them for my wage.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Lovell versus Carson. Step forward, please.
Attorney Warner Lovell is suing his former client, 27-year-old ticketing agent Diane Michelle Carson, for failure to pay for services in a custody battle. Michelle says she never hired him.
Mr. Lovell, you are an attorney.
That is correct.
And it is your claim that the defendant retained you in a custody proceeding to represent her and that she has an outstanding bill that you wanted to pay.
That is correct, Your Honor.
Ms. Carson says that she never retained you, and her mother, if anyone, retained you in this custody proceeding. And aside from that, you failed to show up in court on the day of the hearing. Is that your defense?
Yes.
I gather, Ms. Carson, that this whole case started with a custody proceeding involving your former husband some 6 or 7 years ago.
Yes, Your Honor.
And you have 2 small children.
Yes.
According to what I read in your answer, you lost custody to your husband.
Yes.
And your husband remarried. And recently he was dispatched to go into active duty, leaving the 2 children with their stepmother. And it was your desire to regain custody of the children, even temporarily, while their father was in the active military, rather than leaving them with their stepmother. That's what the lawsuit was about.
Yes.
And now, Mr. Lovell, I would like you to tell me when Miss Carson came to see you, how she was referred to you. I'd like to see the retainer agreement that she signed.
Your Honor, she came to me on or about June 18, 2002, the same date that she signed this agreement. Actually, she didn't come into my office. I gave the agreement to my secretary, one of my witnesses here, Diane Galloway, who is the mother of the defendant.
Okay, hold on a second. You took this retainer agreement, which I want to read for a second, and you gave it to your witness, who happens to be the defendant's mother.
Right, but Your Honor...
When it was returned to you, was it returned signed?
Yes.
So your conversations were primarily with her mother, who was your secretary?
That's correct.
Did you sign a retainer agreement with the plaintiff in June?
No, I did not.
Step up, please. Ms. Galloway, you worked for the plaintiff?
Yes.
For how long?
5 years.
Prior to the 18th of June, 2002, did you discuss with the plaintiff your daughter's predicament with regard to her 2 children?
Yes.
When had your daughter first contacted you and told you that the children were going to be with their stepmother?
She didn't contact me. I just knew.
How did you know?
Because I correspond with their father and the stepmother.
When you found out about it, what did you do?
I encouraged her to try to get temporary custody of them.
When did you speak to him?
June the 18th.
Are you telling me that prior to June the 18th you never spoke to him about the situation?
Not as far as in a professional manner, just as far as in corresponding, I would come in kind of depressed or upset or something and, share with him the situation.
Now, in June is when you had the first formal conversation with him, is that right?
That's correct.
And was it at that time that he gave you this retainer agreement?
Yes.
And what did you do with the retainer agreement?
I signed it, and then Michelle signed it.
Where was she when she signed it?
In my kitchen, in my house.
On what date?
September, I'm going to say probably around 21st, 22nd.
Your Honor,
Shut. I don't want you to speak.
Okay.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
The conference with client that you are referring to in your billing statement has to be Miss Galloway. Is that correct?
Yes, but may I explain?
No.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Attorney Warner Lovell says former client Michelle Carson owes for his services involving custody. Michelle says Mr. Lovell was hired by her mother, so she should pay.
Why is it that your daughter didn't sign the retainer agreement until September?
Because the proceedings, the way they were going, we thought we were going to have to, get attorney fees from the defendant. And I couldn't do that because I was not a party to the litigation. So I told her, in order to get attorney fees, you're the party, I'm not, you need to sign this.
Now, when was the hearing in this case?
First one I was involved in was scheduled for June 28, 2002, but we went in a day early the 27th at mutual agreement.
Mr. Lovell, between June 18th and September, how many court appearances did you make?
I made that one.
And then?
There was another lawyer involved for the defendant here, and the defendant and her mother wanted someone with more experience. I have 32 years experience.
Shh, Mr. Lovell. Who told you that?
Diane Galloway, my witness, told me they wanted someone more experienced. I then communicated with the defendant about this, and I sent her letters. She never responded to one of the letters and indicated
what was the date. What was the date of the letter, sir?
It was September 23rd. Was to her lawyer, my co-counsel, pointing out.
No, Mr. Lovell. Mr. Lovell, sir. Let me explain to you where I'm going, and you know
September 23 is the short
You know
answer.
exactly where I'm going, Mr. Lovell.
Right.
Between June 18th and some date in September that your witness is not sure of, the defendant did not retain you. She retained you.
I disagree with that assessment.
Well, I'm telling you, you may disagree with it, but since I am the final arbiter of what's going on here, you have to accept that, sir. Now, you are suing for work that was done between June and September. I think that your secretary wanted some help with a custody case that she thought was a good idea initially in April. She told her daughter that she thought her daughter should pursue this custody case as opposed to the stepmother. Her daughter retained her own attorney. She signed a retainer agreement with you in June. She did not sign it until September. And all I'm asking you now, sir, is to fill in the blanks for me when you had correspondence with the defendant. Show me.
The first letter I had with her was the 23rd of September. Here's a copy of the letter. I had another one on October 8th. But prior to these letters, I had telephone communications with her, Judge, Your Honor, and she recognized me as her counsel.
Don't tell me she recognized you as her counsel, sir. I don't see that she recognized you as her counsel. You don't have a retainer agreement signed by her until September. And in September, you started sending her letters that you wanted your money. She says, you're not my lawyer. I mean, I'm not asking you any questions. I'm just looking at your paperwork, sir, and listening to your witness.
From August 6th to October 7th, Diane Galloway was out of my office with a wrist injury and surgery. So I was having to communicate some with the defendant directly. She recognized me as her lawyer. And
did you recognize him as your lawyer?
I never spoke with him. It was always through my mom. My mom would tell me something. I never spoke with this gentleman on the telephone except for one time, and it was a no charge on the billing statement. All of this other billing is conversation with Diane Galloway, conversation with Diane Galloway.
See it, please?
All of the bills.
Can I see it, please? How much did you pay your attorney?
My attorney, $2,000.
What happened with the case?
I lost.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Who paid you your retainer on June 18th?
Diane Galloway paid a $500 retainer on that time. I have a copy of the check she's given.
I believe you.
Okay.
Am I correct that in your statement to this defendant, dated 7/1/02 for the month of June, that when you refer to conference with client, you are referring to Miss Galloway?
Some of those were with Miss Galloway. I had a conversation or two with each one.
Listen to me, sir. You don't say clients. You say client. Did you have a conference with Miss Carson on 6/18? The answer is either yes or no.
No.
So if you did not have a conference, Mr. Lovell, with Miss Carson on June 18th, the conference with client that you are referring to in your billing statement has to be Miss Galloway. Is that correct?
Yes, but may I explain?
No. On June 19th, did you have a conference with Miss Carson?
Not in person.
Are you telling me, sir, that you had a conference on the telephone with Miss Carson and you had a conference with Miss Galloway as well?
No. The defendant worked for American Airlines and I couldn't reach her by phone during the day. When I would call, I usually would not get a response. If she had to come into my office, she would lose pay. Therefore, I would communicate to her through Diane Galloway.
Mr. Lovell, I'm not going to prolong this torture anymore, sir. You do not have a case against Miss Carson and you know it. Case dismissed. That's all.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Mercado versus Atkinson. Step forward, please.
9/11 dispatcher Dawn Mercado is suing her former live-in boyfriend, mechanic Jeremy Atkinson for unpaid rent, utility bills, and unpaid loans. Jeremy says she kicked him out because he didn't get along with her 5-year-old son.
Ms. Maracaido, you and the defendant were boyfriend and girlfriend, and you lived together for a brief period of time in an apartment that you leased together. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Something happened. Mr. Atkinson decided to leave, according to you. He left, and you want him to be responsible for the remainder of the lease, at least his portion of the remainder of the lease. In addition, you claim that he used your credit card, made certain charges that you want to be reimbursed for.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Atkinson says that you told him to leave the apartment. You actually kicked him out of the apartment, so why should he be responsible for the rent? And that any charges that he made on your credit card, he paid you for in cash. Is that right, sir?
Yes.
Okay. When did you move in together?
He moved into my studio apartment with me in the beginning of May, and we moved into our apartment, which we had a signed lease, on June 15th.
So what happened?
We got along very well until my son was diagnosed with having mixed ADHD. Him and my son had some problems.
How old is your son?
5 years old.
What kind of problems was your son having with Mr. Atkinson, or vice versa?
They argued constantly.
He argued with a 5-year-old?
Yes, ma'am.
What were you arguing with a 5-year-old about?
It's just whenever you'd ask him to do something, he would say he'd do it and then wouldn't go do it. Like clean his room, he wouldn't do that. If you told him to go take a shower, he wouldn't do it. And I just didn't have the patience.
We found that he had a hard time focusing, and that's why he was diagnosed. He went through several psychologists, psychiatrists, family doctors. He's now on medication, and he sees a psychiatrist anywhere from 3 to 4 times a month. He is having a lot of improvement, and he had made the comment to my mom and dad that he thought Mr. Atkinson was a monster and that he was afraid to leave with him. Yeah. I explained to Mr. Atkinson that I was not going to choose between him and my son, that my son was my priority, and that we had several disagreements about that. And it just led to problems between that and financial problems. And I never kicked Mr. Atkinson out. I told him I could no longer support him and that he was welcome to leave.
You said a couple of things that were pretty smart. You said, A, I wasn't going to choose between him and my 5-year-old. That's a no contest. You have to go. I am not finding that by your saying to him, there's the door, he did not take that as, I better get out of here or there's going to be difficulty. He says you threw him out. I think that that's what happened. Whatever, he's not going to pay the rent. Now let's hear about the credit card.
On several occasions, Mr. Atkinson asked to borrow money with the intention that he would pay me back.
Yes, it's true, Your Honor, but the majority of the time, money was reimbursed on my payday in the form of cash, or if I did any side work, she got the money from it.
Is that true?
He would give me cash for some of it, ma'am, but these are the things that he has not reimbursed me for.
Did you keep a running log of how much he spent and how much he reimbursed you when he paid you in cash?
No, ma'am.
Then I'm not getting involved. There is absolutely no way of you determining, at least for me, how much he owes you in the months that he lived there when you had this rather fluid financial arrangement. It's over. You made a mistake. Put a period. Move on. Your parents live close by?
About 30 minutes away, ma'am.
Do they help you?
As when they can.
Good. You have another few months to pay this rent. You're going to stay in the apartment or not?
Yes, ma'am. I cannot get out of the lease.
Good. That's what I think you should do. Goodbye.
Yeah, this is case number 438 on the calendar in the matter of Clemens versus Powell.
Thanks, Bert.
You're welcome, Judge. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Folks, have seats, please.
Ms. Clemens, according to your complaint, you and the defendant lived together. You claimed that in September of last year, he assaulted you.
Yes.
Then again, there was some sort of an altercation in October of last year, and you were arrested. And it is your claim that after that, you were barred from going to the house, and Mr. Powell got rid of all of your property.
No, he has all my property.
You want it back, or you want what he got rid of? You want the value of it? Mr. Powell says that there was never an assault in September, at least not one perpetrated by him.
Correct.
And that the property that you're speaking of was property that you were supposed to retrieve with the assistance of a third party pursuant to a court order. You never got a third party to come and get your property, and he got rid of it.
Correct.
Okay. How long did you live together, Miss Clemens?
2 years, a little over 2 years.
From when to when?
From November of 2000 until October of 2002.
2002. Were you living in his apartment, your apartment, or is it an apartment that you moved into together?
He moved into my apartment, and after that, we moved into a house.
So you were living in 2002 in a leased house?
Yes.
And in whose name was the lease?
Both of ours.
Is that right?
This is correct.
And when did the lease expire?
February 1st of 2003.
So at the time that you left the house in October of 2002, there was still a few months to go on the lease. Is that
Yes.
right? All right. Now I want you to tell me first, since you're suing for this assault that allegedly happened in September of 2002, I want you to tell me the circumstances surrounding that assault.
Me and Mr. Powell got into an argument, and basically it was the same thing, arguing about who did what, and basically we weren't getting along. We weren't getting along at all. And he hit me.
What time of the day? Where were you?
And it was nighttime, and I was in my room.
And he just hit you? Did he hit you with a fist? Did he hit you with an object? Did he hit you with a hand?
His open hand.
And what happened after he hit you?
I cried for a while. We argued some more, and he left out the room.
And then what happened?
The next day I woke up feeling sore all over, so I went to the hospital.
You have a hospital report?
Yes, I do.
Let me see it. Where were you hit?
Here, there, and on my other arm.
You said he slapped you with an open fist.
He slapped me and he hit me a couple times.
Well, you didn't tell me that.
I'm sorry, I wasn't clear, but he slapped me and he hit me a couple times.
Did you go to the police?
No, I did not. I refused
After you went to the hospital, where did you go?
I went back home.
Did you tell them at the hospital that you have a safe place to go?
Not exactly, no, because...
Well, that's what they say that you told them.
Yes, I
that
went
you had a
home.
safe place to go, and the safe place to go is you went home.
Yes, because he was at work. It was safe at home. He was gone.
Well, did you pack up your things and leave?
No, I did not.
Why not?
Because I was in love with Mr. Powell. We had had arguments before.
So then if you were in love with Mr. Powell and you decided to stay,
Yes.
and I'm not interested in your suing him now because he slapped you in September when you went home and you decided to stay. Do you have children together?
No, we do not.
So the only thing that you have together is a lease?
Yes.
Do you work?
Yes.
Were you working at the time?
Yes.
So then you're not financially dependent upon him for any reason?
Oh, no, he was financially dependent on me.
So that there was no reason why you couldn't just pick up and leave?
I understand that, ma'am.
Who are these people here with you today?
My best friend, MJ Andrews, and my ex-husband who took me to the hospital, and they're here with me to support me.
So you could have gone to either one of their houses, is that
Yes,
right, if
ma'am,
you
I
felt
could
that you were in danger?
I don't feel like I was in that much danger because...
So then why are you suing him now?
I don't... The suing him for the violence is not important. What's important today is my things that were left in the house, and I did try to obtain...
Just
a
one
third
second.
party.
I'm not there yet. So what you're telling me is you just threw in this September incident
No, they asked
for good
me,
measure.
They asked me what happened, and I told them.
Well, you could tell them, but you had no inkling to sue
No,
him for this.
it's not
Fine.
important.
That's good, because for me, you wouldn't get anything. I'm not even sure that it happened. Now I'd like you to tell me what happened in October. I'm going to you because according to you, there was an assault in October,
Correct.
and she was arrested.
Correct.
Let me hear what happened.
Okay, basically what happened was, as she may have mentioned, that we were not getting along at this point in our relationship because of the different mood swings that she would have, as well as the what I would characterize as obsessive, possessive type of behavior towards me
Mr.
in our
Powell.
relationship. Yes.
How long did you know Miss Clemens?
I knew her for 2 years.
When you knew her, was she taking medication?
I wasn't aware of her taking medication until maybe 6 months in our relationship.
Either an antidepressant, is that what you take, antidepressants?
Yes. I'm no longer on them. I no longer take them.
But you were taking them for quite a while.
Yes, and Mr. Powell knew because...
That's all, you were taking them for quite a while.
But Mr. Powell was aware of the time that I got the prescription, and he knew how long I was taking them and why.
Between 1995 and 2000, had you been taking antidepressants or any other psychiatric medication?
I only started taking Zoloft, which is an antidepressant, in 2001.
Okay.
Prior to that, no,
Nothing. In October, sir,
Yes.
you want to tell me what happened?
As she said, she was prescribed, I said she was prescribed medication, but she wasn't taking it, or if she was taking this medication, she was taking it with the addition of alcohol at the same time, which basically caused the violent mood swings. There was a lot of violence anyway. October 3rd, it escalated to the point where she pushed me through a glass door. The glass was already broken from an incident that she had broken this glass before for being upset with me, and that was basically how she showed her anger, was to break things and throw things. Anyway, the police were called in. She was arrested at that point.
On the 3rd of October?
Correct. There's a temporary protection order that's given with any domestic violence case. She violated that temporary protection order by constantly harassing and stalking me, as well as coming by the house, as well as the number of phone calls that she will call. Like I said, I have an answering machine that takes 50 messages. She would fill those up totally. I presented this to the police department, and they rearrested her for violation of the
When did they
temporary
rearrest her?
November the 4th, I want to say, Your Honor. I'm not sure exactly when, but at that court date, she was dealing with some bad check things, as well as a preliminary trial on this domestic violence. They rearrested her that day because they had an arrest warrant out for her, but they couldn't find her. They got her when we went to court that day, so she was rearrested at that time. So I made sure that the judge understood that my problem is only this. I want this woman to deal with the medication and help herself. I even told her I don't even want her to have jail time, as opposed to, could you just make sure that there's something in place that she gets treatment for her symptoms. And basically what she was doing was she was causing me and my son, she was jeopardizing me and my son's life through all these different things.
Okay.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
After she basically kept violating judge's orders and putting me and my son's life in jeopardy, I felt that there was no need for me to keep this going on. This civil case is basically the same example of her trying to keep some type of relationship going here, Your Honor.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Lisa Clemens says ex-boyfriend Ricardo Powell owes for the return of property and for an assault. Ricardo says Lisa is a violent woman.
Mrs. Clemens, in November, did you plead guilty to any of these charges, and were you given a year's probation?
I pled guilty to the violation of the protection order,
okay.
And they dismissed the domestic violence.
The underlying.
The only reason I placed those phone calls to Mr. Powell in violation of the protection order was because I had no longer had any of my things. Mr. Powell denied a third party on two other occasions.
Wait just 1 second. I'm not there yet. I asked you if you pled guilty. The answer is yes. You had an attorney, is that right?
Yes, and I spent a night in jail.
Okay. Now, as part of the order, the judge told you that you could send a third party for your property.
Yes, but Mr. Powell...
Just a second. What was the name of the third party that you designated to get your property?
My Aunt Donna. Mr. Powell denied.
Just a second. What was wrong with these two people here to get your property?
My aunt was available with me in court, and therefore the people, when I left the courthouse that day, we designated her because the court officers were there.
Who designated her?
My lawyer and I, because she was there. She was available. She was in court.
Was that part of the order?
No, it's not. The person is designated on the court papers.
Okay.
I went back to court, Your Honor.
I'm not there yet, Ms. Clement. I'm trying to go in order. When, for the first time, were you contacted by Ms. to get her property?
There was never any contact business. There was only contact by Lisa a week after the trial.
Just a second.
Yes.
A week after
the trial.
The trial.
Correct.
Did you, Ms. Clements, go to the defendant's house?
No, ma'am, I did not.
Did your aunt go to the defendant's house?
No, she did not. I have a witness here today that he claims was with me. I have not even driven down the street.
Just a second. Is there any reason why you brought these two witnesses here today instead of your aunt?
Because my aunt is working and she could not get off of work.
Don't these people work?
Yes, but...
Listen to me, Ms. Clements. The defense that Mr. Powell has in this case is that you were instructed by the court to have a third party retrieve your property. His defense is you never had a third party contact him in order to get that property. You say that you did, and that third party was your aunt. So it would seem to me that that is a key witness. These people aren't key witnesses. This person was the person you designated. Why would you not bring a pivotal witness who you say can testify that you were trying to comply with the judge's order?
My aunt was not, to me, a pivotal key witness in this instance.
Well, to me she is.
I understand that, Your Honor.
Now, I'd like to see a list of the property that you say you left behind at Mr. Powell's. Do you still have the bed with the mattress and box spring?
No.
Chest of drawers?
No.
Jewelry?
No.
What'd you do with it?
She had a couple bags of clothes, some books, and she does have one dresser. It's a desk Right, that's it. Other than that, everything else is thrown out, which was shoes, it was toothbrushes, personal items, things of that nature. After she basically kept violating judges' orders and putting me and my son's life in jeopardy, I felt that there was no need for me to keep this going on. This civil case is basically the same example of her trying to keep some type of relationship going here, Your Honor.
Mr. Powell, I want you to tell me, sir, when she was arrested in October.
Correct.
Now,
yes.
up until that time, the two of you had lived together for a couple of years. When you live together for a couple of years, you accumulate property. You have your clothes and things. Did there ever come a time when you gave certain of her property over to somebody so that she would have clothes and shoes?
As soon as she got out of jail, she was there within 2 hours with the police escort to get her things. They gave her things. They allowed her to take things out that day. So she took most of her things that first day.
Miss Clemens, on October the 4th, were you accompanied by a police officer, easy to verify, back to Mr. Powell's house to retrieve some of your property?
Yes, I was accompanied by the police officer.
And how long did you stay with the police officer, which is also easy to verify, in Mr. Powell's house?
Mr. Powell rushed us out after about 20 minutes. He told me to get what I could get and get out.
No, there was a police officer with you.
Yes, and
there was a police officer with you. I assume that if you were there with an officer, you wanted to get things that were most valuable to you. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Why didn't you take your jewelry?
Because the jewelry was what I consumed. What jewelry I had on was most important to me. The jewelry that was left in the house were things I did not wear every day. The clothing I obtained was stuff that I needed to get through the week. Mr. Powell stopped me from getting everything. I wish I could.
I'm not talking about everything. I'm asking you about a specific thing. I'm asking you about jewelry. To me, woman goes into a house, she grabs cash and jewelry first, and then you go to your pocketbook.
Your Honor.
What? Go ahead.
I have this whole situation with Lisa has been such a terrifying thing. As I said, I've even neglected to countersue her for the amount of rent left on our lease, as well as the damages to the house, which I have pictures of right here. Those damages would be in a total of somewhere between $800 and $900. The rent would be the total of like $1,400. I don't want nothing else to do with this whole situation whatsoever, so I've neglected to countersue.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
When did you go to get her things?
No, I never got a chance to because the officer called me back and said he changed his mind.
No, I don't believe. Let's not get involved with things that you really don't know anything about.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Lisa Clemens says ex-boyfriend Ricardo Powell won't return her property. She also claims Ricardo assaulted her.
I would like to know, Mr. Powell, on what date you disposed of, according to you, these couple of bags of clothing and shoes.
November the 19th, the day that she came over a week after the trial in violation of the judge's order. There was no more purpose at that point. She was going to keep violating the protection order. She was going to keep violating the judge's order.
Now, she was found guilty on the violation.
She was found guilty on the domestic violence. She had it mixed up, Your Honor. That's the only thing I'm clarifying. She was found guilty of the domestic violence. I plea bargained her to dismiss the violation of the temporary protection order.
So she wouldn't go to jail?
Correct. That she would get this counseling.
Right. So she wouldn't go to jail because
Correct.
if you're found guilty on the violation, what?
Correct. Yes, sir.
You want to say something?
Yes.
Well, step up for a second. Tell me what you want to say. Your last name is?
My last name is Twyman.
Go ahead.
I went with the police to their house to get her clothes and things.
Is that the day she was released?
This was the second time, I believe. And he would not let her get anything. And the police called both their lawyers. And I believe both lawyers agreed that she could get these things. And he told them at first she could come and get them. And then the police called me back.
Just a second. Who did he tell she could come and get?
He told the police.
How do you know that?
Because the officer called me at home, at my house, and told me that I could go and get the things without her.
You, not her.
Not her.
You.
Me. Right.
Fine. When did you go to get her things?
Now,
listen to me carefully. When did you go to get her things?
I never got a chance to because the officer called me back and said he changed his mind.
No. I don't believe.
Oh, well,
that I don't believe. Yeah. He said you could go.
Exactly.
Was she going with you?
No, she was not allowed to go.
Good.
She was there to...
Now let me hear your version of these events.
Okay, Your Honor. After the police, they said she has a reasonable expectation to come after the domestic violence case to come back and get some things out of her house. I gave them the run of the house to get what they have to do because I understood the police officers. After that, I was advised by the police officers as well as the prosecutor's office that anything else after this would have to be dealt with in court. They came over 3 extra more times after that in violation of what everybody is stating.
Who's they?
She came over more than once. He came over the second time after the police with her, too. She was there with him the second time.
Where was she?
They were in the truck in front of the house.
Did you ever go over to the house in the truck with her? Shh. The answer is either yes or no.
Yes.
Well, you can't do that, sir.
Okay, well, we met the police there at the house. And we were not in front of your house. We were 2 doors down, actually. We called the police before going to his house.
She can't go there, sir. Don't you understand that?
Exactly. I understand that. Okay, Jan, if you may, if she can't go there, why would he have her come there and pay the rent and then put her out?
Again,
after the whole situation.
Let's not get involved with things that you really don't know anything about.
I know
Okay?
about it.
Okay? Sit down.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment.
You have to put a period. You have to say this did not work out. The relationship is over. I'm not going to have anything to do with him. I lost some. He may have lost some. I lost more. That's the way it usually goes. It's over. Forget it. Go buy a new TV and a new hamper. Do you understand?
Yes,
it's
I do.
finished. It's over.
Yes,
if you stop taking your medication because you don't feel as if you need
I don't
it
need it.
anymore,
I'm not with him anymore.
if you don't feel as if you need it anymore, that's a judgment that you're going to have to make. I'm not so sure, Ms. Clements, that that's the best idea. However, if you think that that's a good idea, fine. Cross him off and say it's over and let it go. That's all.
This is case number 4.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Sullivan versus Bradshaw. Step forward, please.
25-year-old cook Andrea Sullivan and her husband Micah are suing former friend 25-year-old cook Damon Bradshaw for injuring Andrea's back when he body slammed her onto a couch. Damon says he was imitating Andy Kaufman.
Mrs. Sullivan, the defendant was a former friend of yours and a roommate.
That's right.
Both you and your husband's. Is your husband?
Yes.
According to your complaint, one evening, 2 of you were sitting around watching television, and Mr. Bradshaw, sort of mimicking something that you were watching on television, some wrestling that you were watching on television, he picked you up and he threw you on the sofa, because he was watching some wrestling. Is that right, Mr. Bradshaw?
Pretty much. It was Andy Kaufman.
What does he do? Does he sing?
He was a comedian who wrestled women.
What?
Taxi, Locker, on Taxi, the show Taxi.
He be that.
Does he also, and he wrestles?
Well, he started wrestling women for a while because he thought it'd be funny.
See, that's what you were watching on television. And
So, huh?
what day of the week was this?
I don't know. On a weekday or something, I don't remember.
Well, what kind of work do you do? What were you doing then?
I wasn't working at the time. So.
Were you studying something?
No, I was just a bum. Pretty much.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You're a cook.
Yeah.
Did you go to school for that?
No, I didn't.
Would you give me the name of the restaurant, Bert, and I want to make sure to take it off our list.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Andrea Sullivan and her husband Micah are suing former friend Damon Bradshaw for injuring Andrea's back when he body slammed her onto a couch. Damon says he was imitating Andy Kaufman.
Anyway, you picked up Mrs. Sullivan and you threw her on the couch?
I didn't throw her.
Tell me what you did.
Well, we were getting wasted, and we were up all night long watching TV, and he had to go to work, and so we were watching Man on the Moon about Andy Kaufman, and I thought it looked pretty funny. I said I could kick any girl's butt, and...
Don't do that to the table.
Sorry.
It's irritating.
And so I grabbed her, and we were wrestling around, and I took her, and I put her on the couch, and she landed on, I guess, a bar or something in the couch, and I hurt her back. Then we called him. He came over.
Oh. What kind of work do you do now?
Now I'm a cook.
You were a cook.
Yeah.
Did you go to school for that?
No, I didn't.
Would you give me the name of the restaurant? Bert and I want to make sure to take it off our list. Could we have the name of the restaurant, please? Put that down, Bert.
It's really good.
It's off the list.
It's off the list.
Off the list.
All right, he threw you down on the couch. You hurt your back, is that right?
That's right. We weren't wrestling, though.
Mr. Bradshaw said that you were both drinking. Is that true?
Yes.
What do you do?
I am a cook also.
Did you go to school to be a cook?
No.
What's the name of the restaurant? And what do you do?
I'm a student.
Did you see a doctor?
Yes, I went to a chiropractor.
Can I see, please, the bills from the chiropractor? When did you first start to have pain in your back?
As soon as he dropped me onto the couch, that he slammed me down onto the couch.
Was there a bar there? He says
yeah, there was
bar
like
there.
a wood frame bar that I landed on, and
They weren't really wrestling, though, Your Honor. He always says it like that they were wrestling and having a good time, but he just
He wasn't
picked her up
wrestling.
and
He was being an idiot.
Yeah, he just grabs her and
No,
threw her
excuse me,
down.
he wasn't being an idiot.
Yes,
He was an
he did
idiot
slam me
practicing
It was
his
just like
craft.
Rough House.
Yeah.
I don't go around beating women up.
You didn't do it, sir. You didn't hurt her on purpose.
No.
I want to explain something to you. I don't believe that you hurt her on purpose. I believe that you hurt her because you were an idiot.
Judge Judy is ready to rule.
Whether you hurt her on purpose or you hurt her because you're an idiot, you still hurt her, and it's your fault. Do you understand?
Yeah.
You had medical bills in the amount of $3,567. Is that right?
Yes.
Listen, I hope a lot of other people go to, what is this, to eat?
Yeah.
So you're going to need it. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $3,567.56.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Davis versus Wallace. Step forward, please.
26-year-old homemaker Shoshana Davis and her son, 7-year-old Raleek Wilkes, are suing her aunt, airport security screener Yvette Wallace, for causing her son's finger to be severed.
Miss Davis, Miss Wallace is your aunt, is that right?
Yes.
And this is your son?
Yes.
He's 7?
Yes.
And what's your first name?
Raleek.
Raleek.
Yes.
Miss Wallace, this is your daughter?
Yes.
You like him?
Yes.
Is that right? You play together occasionally? According to your complaint, Miss Davis, you were at your aunt's house, socializing,
Yes.
sitting in the kitchen, having a cup of coffee,
Yes.
and the kids were playing.
Yes.
And at some point, this young lady went into the bathroom.
Yes.
According to you, she slammed Raleek's finger in the door, causing the tip of his finger to come off.
Yes.
And then you took him to the hospital, and they had to find the tip of the finger, and you say Miss Wallace didn't get the tip of the finger there fast enough. To make a long story short, Raleek is missing a little piece of his finger. And you want your aunt to pay for all of his medical bills and for pain and suffering. You want her to pay you $5,000, right?
Yes.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy.
You're sitting with your aunt in the kitchen, having a cup of coffee. What happens? Was he in the kitchen with you and followed her into the bathroom?
No, he wasn't. They was playing in Christina's bedroom.
Right.
Christina runs into the bathroom after hitting Raleek. And
She hit him?
Yes.
Where did she hit him?
On my leg.
You mean she hit you because she was angry with you?
No.
Was she playing around? Huh?
Yes.
Sure she was. And then she went into the bathroom. What did you do, Raleek?
I ran after her.
Right. And she slammed the door?
Yes.
And you got your finger caught in the door?
Yes.
So? That's what happened.
Yes. And I'm suing because it's his left hand. He cannot participate in certain activities in school because it's his left hand.
Should have watched him more carefully, Miss Davis. You're his mother. Why didn't you watch him?
I was not in the apartment.
I thought you said you were in the apartment.
Miss Wallace, he was in Miss Wallace's care as I was in the hallway. Now,
just a second. What do you mean he was? Shh, just a second.
Your Honor, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I thought you just told me you were socializing with your aunt.
We was engaging in conversation.
Who was?
Me and the other tenants that live inside the projects. There was an incident in the building, and I was standing in the hallway. I was not in the apartment at the present time.
Just a second. You didn't leave him in her care. Just because she stayed in the apartment and minded her own business, you went outside to mind somebody else's business. If you were so concerned about your son's welfare, you should have stayed in the apartment.
You're right, Your
Why do you
Honor.
blame somebody
But
else?
no, I'm not blaming her at that matter. I'm blaming her because we do conjugate like that.
Fine. Well, then why are you blaming her and suing her for this incident that occurred that had no fault on her part?
Okay.
None at all. Her daughter was playing with your son. He ran after her in the bathroom.
Yes.
She slammed the door.
Yes.
And he got his finger caught in the door because
Yes.
he put his finger in the door. Why should she pay you $5,000?
Why? Because while we was there, no one ever, Christina never apologized. Plus, because of his, this is permanent defective.
But
He
that
has to
doesn't
have
mean that
surgery.
just because he's got a permanent injury doesn't mean that your aunt is liable for that injury.
Why not? If it was done in her house in...
You brought your child there.
Yes.
You are responsible to supervise your child, not her. You.
Yes.
If you had brought your child there and said to her, will you supervise and take care of Ralik while I go to the store?
But Your Honor...
I'm speaking.
Okay.
And she said, I will take care of him. Then you might have a case against her for inadequate supervision.
Yes, Your Honor.
But you're there. You're his mother. He's hurt.
Yes.
He's hurt while in your care. Just because you walked outside to be a yenta in the hallway
No, Your
doesn't
Honor.
mean because you left her in the apartment that she's responsible. No, Miss Davis. You're still responsible.
Your Honor, she knew I was going in the hallway.
That doesn't mean anything if she knew you were going in the hallway, Miss Davis. Doesn't mean anything. She has to assume the responsibility and say to you, I will take care of your son while you go out.
Yes, Your Honor. This is how it was.
No, it wasn't. Stop making it up as you're going along.
Never.
Never.
We'll do
Your
that.
case is dismissed, Miss Davis. I want you to get a life. Be responsible. It's your son. You take care of him. Not somebody else. It's not her fault.
But, Your Honor, you didn't even look at his finger.
It doesn't make any difference what happened to his finger, madam. He's your child. You are responsible for supervising him and taking care of him. And don't make it somebody else's fault. It was your fault that you didn't watch him more carefully. If you did, he wouldn't have had his finger chopped off. It's not her fault. She went into the bathroom. They were playing. She slammed the door. His finger was in the door. You don't make a lawsuit out of nothing. Goodbye.
Yeah, this is case number 359 on the calendar in the matter of Bruno versus Ross. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Ma'am, have a seat, please.
You used to be in love. You're not in love anymore. So now we're here. Is that
Yes,
right?
ma'am.
So, Mr. Bruno, you say that Miss Ross, who used to be your love, owes you for two things. First, a loan for materials that you purchased to do a deck in her house.
Right.
Deck was falling apart. You're in that business. You said, I'll do a deck. According to you, you said, you pay for the materials, I'll do the labor as a labor of love. And the second loan is for a truck, $2,500, and you say that both of these things, repayment was promised by Miss Ross for both of these things. Miss Ross says, baloney. Miss Ross has some counterclaims. She was at your house one day, according to her, and she fell down a flight of stairs. You were still dating after that.
Yes.
Is that right? But you decided you might as well sue him for that. Now,
Well, my feeling was that it was ridiculous that it got to this point anyway. So if we were going to,
if we were going
if he
to
was
dredge
going-
up old trash, we might as well get all the old trash
Exactly.
up. That's what we are. We are receptacles for trashy lawsuits. Not. Because if you fell down the flight of stairs at his house and you hurt yourself, you should have proceeded against his homeowners at the time. If you chose not to do that, don't bother me with it. The next thing that you're suing him for on the counterclaim, because I'm whittling down this lawsuit. You're going to get to whittling down yours in a second.
No problem.
Oh, I'm glad you feel that way. The next thing that you're suing him for is you say that he started work on this deck of yours and he left it halfway and you want him to pay to have it finished.
correct.
Unlikely, but a possibility. Third thing is you say he has some property of yours. Skis, what else?
He has all of my ski equipment.
Do you have her ski equipment?
No, I don't.
Where is it?
To my knowledge, it's in her basement.
You don't have it.
No, I have my daughters and my own.
He doesn't have it. Next.
He has a phone of mine, cordless
What kind of phone?
Cordless phone.
How did he get a cordless phone of yours?
One of his phones was not working properly, and he was, well, we were going to get married, and he was talking about going and getting another phone, and I said, well, let's just put that in your basement. That's
great, perfect. So you gave him a phone. So what else?
A cookbook and some kitchen utensils.
How
that
did he
I took
get
over there.
those?
I was over at his house cooking a lot, and they were left. There were items that I had not taken back home.
That you left there? Items that you left there?
Right. I never thought it would get to this.
It didn't. So with the exception of, I'll let you tell me the story about the deck. Forget about everything else. Okay, Mr. Bruno, tell me about the deck, the materials that you purchased, sir. Tell me where you were with her when you decided that you were going to fix this deck.
I was on my phone. We were discussing it.
Oh, tell me what the discussion was.
It was Mother's Day a couple days before, and she has some puppies that were getting ready to be sold, and she was worried about the safety of people coming to view the deck, or view the puppies, and didn't want them walking on the deck, so she was trying to figure out another route for them to go. And as a Mother's Day gift, I said, well, I'd take care of the deck so that she could have it sold, or not sold, but sell the puppies without worrying about people walking on it.
Great.
Just reimburse me when the puppies are sold, or if you refinance your house. I would charge you no labor. That was my Mother's Day gift. Plus, I took her to dinner.
All right, now let me hear what the phone call was like, Ms. Ross.
He called me the morning of Mother's Day, and he said, I've decided what I want to do for you for Mother's Day. He said, I want to rebuild your deck. And I'm like, well, that's not something that I can afford to do at this point. Well, you know, this is something I want to do for you. You never let me do anything for you. I'm concerned about your safety on the deck. You're going to have people coming over to look at the puppies. Okay. He says, okay, I'm going to go to the store, I'm going to pick up the materials, and I'll be over.
Now tell me about the truck.
Oh, I had been looking for a truck. I knew that once I sold the litter of puppies, that I would have the down payment for the truck. And I had been looking at different trucks, and he's saying, why don't you get that when you like it? And I'm like, no, because I don't have my down payment yet. So I think one truck slipped away from me twice at two different locations. I went and I looked at another truck. He came with me. I liked the truck. He's like, you should just get the truck. I'll just give you the money. He said, your birthday's coming up in September. And
when were the puppies sold?
The last puppy wasn't sold until the first week in August.
What kind of puppies were they?
Labrador retrievers.
How much did you get for the litter?
They sold for different amounts. The highest puppy being sold for $425. The majority of them were sold for $300.
How many puppies were there in the litter?
There ended up being 8.
So there's your $2,500, right? So you'd have had the money for your down payment.
Correct.
When did the two of you break up?
A day before Father's Day.
In June?
Yes, the 15th.
Okay, and when did you give her the $2,500?
May 25th.
So you give him back his $2,500, Miss Ross, because that's the right thing to do. So,
Your Honor.
Yeah.
I have a police report of when he came over to my house demanding back the engagement ring and all of this money that I'm like, okay, fine, whatever, I'll give you the money. He comes in my house, he starts throwing things, so I had to call the police.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
That's an exceptionally high bid if she's just going to put it up to code, which in that case would be a handrail.
Then you should have finished it.
I would have loved to.
But you didn't.
And later today.
He only used electrical tape and wired 3 wires together, and it caught on fire.
Your Honor, that's not true.
Yes, it is, Your Honor. It's true.
That is not true.
Yes, it is.
No, it's not.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Stephen Bruno says ex-fiancée Kathy Ross owes for a truck loan and for the cost to build an outside deck. Kathy says they were both presents.
Did you give him back his ring?
Yes.
Why did he have to come over to your house for the ring?
I have no idea why it even got to that in the first place.
Well, why don't you tell me, sir?
She wouldn't bring it back over, and when I did show up, she'd tell me, get the hell off her property, or what the hell was I doing there? And I told her I wanted the ring back and the money that I'd loaned her, and then I was out of there. And I didn't throw things, Your Honor. I threw its cell phone, which was mine, and that was all I threw.
All right, you lost your temper. That's not the right thing to do.
No, ma'am,
But
it
he gets
isn't.
his $2,500 back. Let me see pictures of the deck. Sort of left this job in the middle, sir.
Yes, ma'am. I loaned her the money for the truck, and I didn't have the money to finish the deck.
So what you're saying to me is you loaned her the money for the truck, and because you loaned her the money for the truck, you didn't have enough money for the materials for the rest of the deck.
In part.
You understand where I'm going, Mr. Bruno. That's what the problem is. You're trying to anticipate where I'm going. You took a house that looked okay. Now, it may not have been okay, but it looked okay.
It was an unsafe.
And it doesn't look okay now.
It's better than what it was, ma'am.
No, it wasn't. No.
Yes.
No.
People were
This is before.
They stepped through that
And this
deck.
is after. There's no railing. There's no guard railing.
No
Is that
railing.
right?
That's right.
And there's not even a full floor.
Right.
I got it. Can I see the cheapest estimate that you got to finish this deck? I think you say in your counterclaim that it was $1,800. Is that right?
Yes.
Well, this estimate is $1,200 to $1,400.
Right, and there's a big, the other one is for $3,200, and I don't know why the difference in the two is
I
so
don't know
large.
either.
And that's not to restore the deck back to the condition it was in. That's just to put up a hand railing and stairs from
And it
the
says to
porch.
bring the deck up to code.
Yes, ma'am, but it's
Okay.
not, I would not be able to use that deck the same way that I was using the other deck. I have no way to get from one part of my yard to the other.
I'm going to take the highest of this estimate, which is $1,200 to $1,400, because I think you're responsible for at least giving her some semblance of a deck back in her house.
Well,
You can't
if I-
just walk away from a gift. You started this, you have to finish it. And if you're not going to go to her house, and I can understand and finish it, somebody's going to have to. So she owes you $2,500 for the truck. From that, I'm deducting $1,400 for the deck. She owes you $1,100 for the truck.
Your Honor, in regards to that, that's an exceptionally high bid if she's just going to put it up to code, which in that case would be a handrail at $2 a foot.
Then you should have finished it,
I would have loved to.
but you didn't.
have
Judgment
the
for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,100, which is the difference between fixing the deck and the $2,500 she owes you for the truck. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
She had conflicts with my family and didn't want to deal with it.
I didn't want to be like the rest of the in-laws and feel like I was shoved to the outside of that main core.
I think it was a little unfair because I know she wasn't telling the truth. We had an agreement prior to all this, but judge ruling is judge ruling.
Your Honor, this is case number 328 on the calendar in the matter of Kitt versus Gadsden. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated.
Miss Kitt, do you have family?
Yes.
Tell me about your family. How many are in your family?
I have 6 and custody of one other, so that makes 7.
Is there a Mr. Kitt?
My son and my nephew.
Other than that? So
No.
you have no husband?
Right.
Miss Gadsden, you want to tell me how many people are in your family?
I live alone right now. I have 3 children. My oldest is living in Atlanta with her father. My young 2 smaller children are with their grandmother. I'm in the midst of a custody hearing. Actually, I have a court date on November 22nd.
Have those children ever lived with you in the past year?
They left about exactly a year ago.
You 2 ladies are neighbors. Each of you has a complaint against the other, suing the other for $5,000. The complaint is really grounded in various forms of harassment. You claim, Ms. Kitt, that the defendant had you falsely arrested on 4 separate occasions, and that she has made numerous phone calls about you to Child Protective Services, alleging that the children who are in your care are out unsupervised. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Gadsden says that you're making her life a holy hell, and she is counterclaiming. So why don't you, Ms. Kitt, first tell me how long you've been living in the house that you currently occupy?
I moved there exactly January 1st of year 2000.
And how long, Ms. Gadsden, have you been living there?
I moved there 94. I've been there 5 years.
So you've been there a long time?
Yes, ma'am.
Why don't you, in a couple of minutes, Ms. Kitt, tell me all about your case against Ms. Gadsden?
Well, about a week after moving there, my children were outside playing. It was right after Christmas. We had just moved there. I walked to the door and Miss Gadsden had a limousine come and pick her friend up. My kids, they admired it. They went outside to see, you know, run and play and look at it. When I seen them approach Miss Gadsden's side of the street, they was like, wow. So Miss Gadsden came out and said, y'all, MF children are not used to seeing things like this. Get the hell away from my yard. So I walked over to her side of the street. I said, ma'am, I don't know you, but these are my children. Don't speak to them in that tone of manner. So I went on in the house, went to work maybe 2 days later. My kid's babysitter lives directly next door to Miss Gadsden. I brought you a picture.
She lives next door.
And I went to open the door to get my kids. Miss Gadsden opened her door and said, B.I., hopped and spit in my face. And it was, I just can't explain, but I knew I was going to get her. And I did. The same day, I hit her. I popped her in her mouth. Not even a year later, maybe about in April, I kept getting police calls and at my house at work. I come home one day, the social services was there. She told me that she had had complaints 1 week after another concerning my kids being unsupervised. So I took her to where my kids were at a babysitter, which was next door to Miss Gatson. And they found no foundings. After they did all this, and I guess she couldn't have me locked up anymore, she started with having me arrested on false charges. I had to be bailed out of jail over and over and over again. Up until this day, I'm still being arrested.
Arrested?
Yes, arrested.
You have the police reports?
Yes, I do.
Can I see them, please?
I have some copies of those and the charges that were all dismissed.
How many times did you have her arrested for damaging your car?
2 times, ma'am.
Did you see her damage your car?
Yes, ma'am.
How come the charges were dismissed?
The photos that I'd asked a friend to drop off for me at Walmart, they did not get same day, development. They had 4 days. And when I went to court the next day, I had to wait until the day after court to get the photos. So the judge dismissed it because I didn't have proof, which made me very upset with my friend, of
Your
course.
Honor. You think I believe that story? I don't believe that story for a minute. Let's go back a minute, Miss Gatson. You have 2 young children. How old are your children?
6 and 8 years old.
The children were removed by social services? Yes.
They were not removed from me. They were placed with their father temporarily.
They were placed with their father by social services.
Okay. They were actually picked up. My oldest daughter was home with the children, and she walked out. She was, in a sense, envious of her 2 younger sisters. She thought that we had a closer relationship than she did. She'd come here from Georgia with her father, and she walked out and called the police and left the 2 children there. The police then took the children to my licensed daycare provider.
Miss Gatson.
And then from there.
Is what you're telling me that you had a misunderstanding with your older daughter, and because there was a misunderstanding with her, she was jealous of the 2 younger children, she left them alone, and because of that, social services placed your 2 children with their father?
Right.
And they'd been with their father for over a year because of that?
No, ma'am. After placing them with him, well, they went immediately from my house to the licensed daycare provider that I had. From there, the father picked them up, and they allowed him to have temporary custody until I completed whatever needed to be done through the Division of Social Services.
But Ms. Gatson, there's a major piece there that you're not telling me, and
Yes,
I want you to say, I was in family court for 25 years. I don't know if it's substance abuse involved.
No, none.
I don't know if there were prior incidents of leaving the children alone.
No,
I'm not sure. I don't know. But I know that if what the original story that you told me was that this was a misunderstanding with your older daughter, that your 2 younger children would have been back in a blink. It was not that.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Have you ever been arrested for anything?
Yes, assault and battery.
What else?
Forgery.
After 92.
Petty larceny. I don't remember the years, but I know charges.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Lynette Kitt says neighbor Tanya Gatson has had her falsely arrested on 4 separate occasions. Tanya says Lynette hangs out with drug dealers.
No. So now I hear a whole bunch of false arrests and a whole bunch of stuff that you've been aggravating her. Now let me hear how she's aggravated you.
If I may begin with, there are other people living in her house, and they are individuals that aren't on leases there. They reach in their socks and they give her things that she pays for at the door, and I have witnesses that have written statements, and I've kind of highlighted where the drugs are in our neighborhood, and there's definitely drug trafficking going on in that vicinity. My last day coming home to my home, I watched an individual walk up to Mrs. Kitt's window. There is an individual, I would not like to call his name, that is banned from our neighborhood, that was known to be shooting in our neighborhood. I've made several police calls about, that is in Mrs. Kitt's home now. Mrs. Kitt, from 7 in the morning to about 2, 3 in the morning, is like a blowhorn from across the street to the street behind my street to a lady by the name of Renee that she is now pulled a knife on and had Renee removed from the neighborhood. Renee pulled a baseball bat in return. On July, the 12th day, I rented that limousine for my friend, not in September. There were children from the neighborhood, yes, but they weren't Miss Kitt's children. It was Mrs. Kitt. That, as I said, excuse me, coming down from my front grass, the kids were all looking, and yes, and I brought my friend outside as a surprise because he'd done a very kind thing for me. And I said, excuse me, please. And she replied with vulgar language, and I was really torn up that I had to be assaulted to do something nice for a friend by this lady across the street. I have, Your Honor, I don't know how else to say, just had about 7 court dates with Miss Kitt.
Just a second. Miss Kitt, would you tell me how many children who live in your home are your biological children?
4 of them are, Your Honor.
I'm confused. 5 or 4?
Well, I count my nephew. I have custody of him. But biologically, 4 of mine live there.
Okay. What other children live in your house?
None other, and no one else, Your Honor.
Have you ever been arrested for drug sales?
No, ma'am.
Other than the arrests that were caused by complaints by Miss Gadsden, have you ever been arrested for anything?
Yes, assault and battery.
When?
2 years this year.
Who was the complainant in that case?
Another young lady.
From the neighborhood?
Yes.
And what was the result of that case?
Dismissed.
Did she allege that you assaulted her?
Yes. Yes,
and
she did.
Did you allege that you were the victim and that she assaulted you?
I said I didn't do it.
You said you just didn't do it?
I didn't do it.
Did you go to trial?
Yes, I did.
And you were acquitted after trial?
Yes.
And that's the only arrest you had anywhere?
Oh, no, ma'am. I have some, like 10 years ago.
For
12
what?
years ago.
What else?
Driving.
Other than driving?
Forgery.
What year?
92.
After 92?
94.
For what?
No, 96 was driving.
Between 92 and 96?
Petty larceny. I don't remember the years, but I know charges.
When was the last time you were incarcerated? Think carefully.
96.
How long?
45 days.
Is that on a plea or a conviction?
Conviction.
Who watched your children?
Their fathers. 2 of them were in DCS because their fathers were Navy.
Now, Ms. Gadsden, I'm going to ask you the same question. Other than instances involving Miss Kitt, have you ever been arrested?
Yes, ma'am.
When was the last time you were arrested?
This was dated on, if maybe the deputy could help me.
No, just tell me. It had nothing to do with Miss Kitt.
Indirectly, yes, ma'am. This was a summons that was for my children's father and I for court, and Miss Kitt thought this was a summons for her and I in court, and I have a witness here that watched her take the summons off my door.
Other than anything having to do with Miss Kitt, have you ever been arrested?
This is a failure to appear.
Listen to me
Yes,
very
ma'am.
carefully, Miss Gadsden. Other than any instance that even tangentially involves Miss Kitt, have you ever been arrested?
I don't think so.
Don't give me I don't think so.
In my home, prior to
In your
2000,
home, out of your home, in the theater, in a
Right.
restaurant, in the street, have you ever been arrested
when
in a
this
car?
individual came to my door,
Just answer yes or no.
Yes.
You have been arrested.
The officer accidentally arrested me, and he was the one that had assaulted me.
Okay, fine.
Yeah.
Other than that instance, madam,
Yes,
other than that instance, prior to 2000, have you ever been arrested?
Prior to 2000? Yeah. I was not arrested. I turned myself in after I found that the children's father's girlfriend filed a warrant against me in the city of Chesapeake, a counter warrant, and actually the incident occurred in the city of Norfolk.
I want you ladies to listen to me very, very carefully. Are you involved in a custody dispute now with the father of your children?
No, ma'am. He is not participating in what social services has required. I've completed all of those things.
Oh, he's not giving you back the kids so fast.
He doesn't have the children, ma'am.
Where are they?
His mother and sister have the children around the corner from my house. I asked them to get them out of foster care because they were taken from him because he had no place to stay.
Okay, you have an older daughter.
Yes, ma'am.
And 2 younger ones. You just told me 2 minutes ago that the
Yes,
2
ma'am.
younger children were with their father. Did I hear that right? Did you hear that?
Let her explain.
Okay.
You just told me that they weren't removed, that they weren't in foster care, that they were with their father. I said that the state take your children. You told me no.
No. I apologize.
Please, give me a break. Listen, you two ladies deserve each other. I would suggest the following to you. Listen to me very carefully. If you're going to live next door to each other, I suggest you have nothing to do with each other. Other than that, I don't want to be bothered with you. Goodbye.
These are excused. You may step out.
Envy. There's a lady that's on the porch on a chair all night long.
She never lets up. She let the judicial system keep me down, but it's not going to keep me down.
The young lady wanted a lot of attention.
I just know it'll never be over.
I think I've been getting all the attention in the neighborhood.
I'm a good friend. I would give her a glass of water. She needed it off the street.
I've got limousines, Lexuses, SC Lexuses, all sorts of nice things coming through and nice people coming to visit.
She's a serial neighbor.
Evening gown, dates, tuxedos, and she has nothing.
She spit in my face.
I opened my door, heard her on the porch at the neighbor's house, reached over to check my mail, and someone stepped up and did that. Something is wrong.
Definitely wrong.
I'm moving. You'll never see me again.
She needs a straight jacket.
I'm gone, Mrs. Kidd.
I'm gonna keep praying.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Morgan versus King. Step forward, please.
Carpenter Gwen Morgan is suing her niece, 20-year-old hotel reservationist LaToya King, for vandalizing her car. LaToya denies the charge.
Ms. Morgan, I've read your complaint. The defendant is your niece, and it is your claim that she vandalized your car. You're going to tell me why you think she would do such a thing, and then, more importantly, you're going to tell me what proof you have that she did it. So let's start with the whys first. Why would she vandalize your car?
Well, around the beginning of December, I was called to my mother's house.
Your niece was living with your mother?
She lives with my mother.
For how long were you living with, is that your grandmother?
I lived with her all my life.
She ill?
Yes.
Who else lives there at the house with you?
Right now, just my grandpa and my son.
Is he all right? Your grandfather?
Yes.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay, so then LaToya came home, and LaToya and the young man came to my mama's house, and we got into an argument because she didn't want the check to go direct deposit. She wanted to come to the mailbox.
What check is she talking about?
This SSI check. I have the paper.
SSI check for whom?
My nephew, which is her half-brother.
How old are you?
I'm 20.
Who's in charge of your brother's
My
SSI
grandmother.
check? Your grandmother is.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you have to do with that?
Well, the thing is, I'm my mother's provider because my mother's ill and mostly bedridden.
What do you mean she's your provider? What does that mean?
In-care health care provider for the elderly people.
You don't live there?
No, I don't. I don't, but I was hired to take care of her.
Whatever, I don't want to get into that. You got into an argument with your niece over who was going to be in charge.
Over a check. Whose check was going to be?
You got into an argument with your niece over who was going to be in charge of finances.
Whether the check come
I don't care.
direct deposit.
Finances, please. I don't have time to go into the whole thing. It's not necessary.
Okay.
That's what the argument was about.
Yes.
The argument was about money.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
He taunts me all the time.
What did he say?
He said, "Ha ha, B. That's why we tore your car up. You tried to sue the wrong person."
Don't make a big story for me. I'm asking you a question. Stop making it up as you go.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Gwen Morgan says after a family argument, her niece, LaToya King, vandalized her car. LaToya says her aunt has a lot of enemies.
Ms. Morgan, when was the argument about money? Give me the date.
On December 27th.
When was your car vandalized?
Well, I woke up on the 28th I got out there about 6 o'clock a.m.
And your car was vandalized?
Yes.
You have pictures of the car?
Yes.
Can I see them, please? Okay, clearly somebody vandalized your car. They flattened your tires, scratched it up, painted it up. Nasty. Now, the next question is, what proof do you have that your niece was responsible for this damage?
Okay, after the disturbance, she called the police and told the police all kind of lies where he just wrote an incident disturbance report. So I went home to my apartment, and she kept calling my house, telling me that if I didn't come back over there to fight her and the young man, that she was going to come over to my house and tear my car up. She wanted me to come out in the rain and fight with both of them.
Do you have a police report?
No. I just have the case number for the police.
Okay. Ms. King, want to try to explain to me what happened at your house?
First of all, she has a lot of enemies, but I know that's irrelevant. But the reason why we got into an argument was because she was trying to put her name on my brother's check, which my grandmother didn't want it. And how we got into an argument, me and my boyfriend was already at the house, and she came in. I didn't know what was going on. She was holding my grandmother down, making my brother go through her purse looking for his bank statements and all this. Why? I'm not sure.
What do you mean she was holding your grandmother down?
She was holding my grandmother down, making
What does that
my
mean?
brother, like forcing her to not grab her purse from my brother, which my brother is mentally challenged, so he's easily to be manipulated. So it's not his fault or anything, but she was holding her down. So I'm like, what are you doing? And then that's when we got into an argument. She was trying to fight me, but I didn't want to fight her. I just called the police.
And the police responded?
Yes. They came and they asked her to leave.
Is that correct? Did they tell you to leave?
They asked me to leave.
Do you know anything about her car?
No, ma'am. I mean, I didn't do anything to it, but I heard about it.
Why don't you tell me what you heard?
Her friend called my grandmother and told her that Gwen was hurt. Somebody had vandalized her car, and she was all upset to please call her. My grandmother told me, Latoya, Gwen may be hurt. The reason why my grandmother wasn't talking to her is because she took my grandmother to court and tried to sue her for $500 for the paperwork that she did for my brother, which my mom asked her to do.
What do you know about who vandalized her car?
I don't know anything about who vandalized it. That's how I heard it.
Did you vandalize her car?
No.
Miss Morgan, she may have vandalized your car and he may have vandalized your car. You the boyfriend?
Yes.
I don't know. It's possible. But possible doesn't go in court. Do you understand, Miss Morgan? You have to have proof.
Well, he told me that they did it.
Really?
Yes, he told me.
Oh, let me, just a second, step up.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Miss Morgan, what did he say to you and when did he say it?
He taunts me all the time.
What did he say?
He said, ha, B, that's why we tore your car up. You tried to sue the wrong person, but I tore your car up, me and Latoya tore it up, and they told me over the phone that they was going to tear it up if I didn't come out to fight. And
where were you when he said to you, we tore your car up?
Going down my mother's main cross street. I go over to by my mother sometimes because I know people that live in the area because I've been over there all my life.
Don't make a big story for me. I'm asking you a question. Stop making it up as you're going. When and where were you when he first told you that he tore up your car, madam?
It was on a Sunday 2 weeks ago on the corner by my mother's house on Cypress Street.
I don't believe that, Miss Morgan. I don't believe that he told you 2 weeks ago, this past Sunday, as you were going by your mother's house. I believe that they might have done it. That's not the issue. I believe you just made up that story.
No, he taunts me all the time. He does. Every time he sees me, he teases me, telling me that they tore my car.
Well, then he's not a very nice person. Did you ever do that?
I don't speak to this lady. I do not speak to her at all.
Miss Morgan, when you come to court, unfortunately, you understand you have to have proof. You don't have any proof that your niece tore up your car, and you don't have any proof that he tore up your car, and I don't believe that he admitted it to you, so your case is dismissed. That's all. I want you to say anything.
You shut up.
Keep your mouth shut in my courtroom.
Accountant Asia Khalifa is suing her boyfriend's friend, 24-year-old student Talia Dunn, for vandalizing her property and harassment. Talia is countersuing for defamation of character and slander.
Order. All rise. Quiet in the courtroom, please. Miss, help me out. Your Honor, this is case number 471 on the calendar in the matter of Khalifa versus Dunn. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Ladies, have seats, please.
Miss Khalifa, you had a boyfriend whose name was?
Terrence.
And Terrence left you with a lot of loving memories and a baby.
Correct.
And Miss Dunn?
Yes.
You have Terrence.
Kind of, sort of. We're still friends.
So that's why you two ladies don't like each other, because of Terrence.
Yes.
That be a fair statement?
Exactly, no.
You mean if it wasn't for Terrence, you would like her?
No.
You wouldn't like her anyway?
At all.
Did you know her before Terrence?
No.
So you met her because of Terrence?
Exactly.
So it's all because of Terrence?
Mm-hmm.
So the two of you have been feuding, because I have a claim and a counterclaim. Mm-hmm. Harassment, damage to property, damage to cars, bricks, vandalism, all because of Terrence. So my first question is, where is Terrence?
He doesn't want to be a part of this.
Just, where is he?
He's at home, at work, maybe.
What kind of work does he do?
He works for an engineering plant.
How old is he?
He's 28.
And for how long were you with Terrence?
I've been with Terrence since 1997 for approximately 7 years.
So you're still with him?
No, ma'am, I'm not.
And how old is your child?
My daughter is 3.
How much child support does Terrence pay you every month?
$400.
You get it regularly?
Yes, ma'am, nonstop.
Love it.
I do too.
So what's your problem with her?
Okay. He was cheating on me with her. She's basically just like a home wrecker.
Just a minute. Asia, I think you got the emphasis on the wrong syllable, darling. It's not her fault.
I'm aware of that.
Not her fault. It's Terrence. And yours. Because before you make a baby with somebody, you get married. That's what people do. They don't have sort of a off and on relationship and then say, well, I expect commitment, but he's not committed. Not committed to you until you make a family. Making a family means getting married and then planning and having a child, having a home. Is that reasonable in that order? Did I do it right this time?
You did it right.
So she's not a home wrecker. You had no home. You only have a home with somebody who you're married to and have a family with.
Exactly, which is why I dismissed him too.
Fine. So it's not her fault. All right. So let's get rid of the name calling. She's not a home wrecker. Terrence is a bum.
Exactly.
Good. Okay. So Terrence the bum was fooling around with her.
Exactly.
And he was probably telling her a whole bunch of stories, like I'm not with her anymore, because he was lying to you, wasn't he? When he was. So would be a fair statement to say that he was probably lying to her at the same time. So now you can continue.
Okay, February 12th of 2002, Talia came to my home. When she came to my home, she was real irate or whatever. I specifically told her, you have too many kids to be over at my house tripping with him.
What did she come to your house for?
Because apparently Terrence was telling her something that he wasn't with me. So every time she came to do her trap checking, he was there. And it made her upset.
Oh, so Terrence was telling you that he wasn't with her, is that right?
It was the thing with him was what he wanted to leave her, but he knew that she was going to make it hard for him to leave her. So like she did when he finally left.
So what'd you go over there for?
I didn't go over there. There's all these things that I have here, or these false allegations. She is on antidepressants. She's bipolar. She has some problems that she needs to deal with.
All right, so she came over to your house, 21202. She came over to your house and you said, don't come over to my house. You got too many kids, whatever. Go ahead. Finish.
My kids have to do with that.
So then she comes over to my house, and when I said that, she went across the street from my house, picked up a brick, and proceeded to bust out my windows. When I had the cops and stuff come or whatever, I gave them the description of what she had on down to a T. That is exactly who they went and picked up, which is leading up on to my next issue. She was already arrested on that charge, and that charge she pled guilty to. After she pled guilty to that charge, she's back to my house on Easter Sunday.
Did you plead guilty to throwing a brick through her window?
I did.
Yes or no?
Yes, I was left
Yes,
with a
you
choice.
did. All right. So then we have no problem with that. So she's financially responsible for that. How much was that to fix?
That was $600.
Good.
She came back over to my house on Easter. Me, my daughter, and Terrence, we were getting ready to go to church. Once again, she screeches up to my house. She hops out. She had on some little black raggedy house coat, some fluffy house shoes, and a scarf around her head. She started blurting all these cuss words. Again, she went across the street because my neighbor has these rocks going up. She picked up a brick, came across, busted out Terrence's back window in his truck, got the other brick, hurled it at mine, and hopped on top of my truck, scratched it, and then cracked my shield and landed on top of my car.
Was she arrested for that?
She wasn't arrested for that. When she did that, she got back in her car because at the time I was telling him to come outside. At the time he was coming outside to see what was going on. She immediately hopped in her car, rammed my gate swing open like this. She ran her car on the right side of my fence, bending it, came up and ripped my screen off of my
So why didn't you call the police?
Because I was already going to court for this other thing, but that's already pled guilty, and this is something totally different, and I'm handling that.
Why didn't you call the police the second time she came back to the house?
Because I already had called the police on her in the first incident, and I have all my reports, and I was on my way to church, and we were meeting Sunday at church.
Oh, no, I don't believe that. That I don't believe.
Your Honor.
Listen to me carefully. Then I assume you don't want to be compensated for any
Yes, I do.
damage. Well, I'm not going to do that because I don't believe your story. I don't believe that part of your story. That's why you didn't contact the police. She came over, she destroyed your truck, she broke the back of his truck, she pulled your screens off your door, which means she got really close to your house. And for that, you don't call the police. But you did call the police when she just picked up a brick and threw it through your window? I don't believe that. Next.
She kept calling my house, saying, calling me out of my name, saying, yeah, your daughter's father is my daughter's father. My name is TT.
You have a child with him too?
No, it was a possibility.
She kept, once again, she kept calling my house saying, yeah, your daughter's father is my daughter's father. Yeah, my name is TT Dunn. It don't make me none. Dunn as in done with. Then she kept calling, okay. Then she kept calling saying stuff like, she's gonna F me up. She's gonna do everything in her best interest to mess us up. Yeah, he's the father, but I have papers to show otherwise that he's not the father.
She thought he was. She went down the menu and she figured out later he wasn't.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
So you want to do the model? You can't. I don't want you to say anything. You shut up. You want to go on a talk show. You made the wrong turn. You keep your mouth shut in my courtroom. Do you understand? You too.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Asia Khalifa claims her ex-boyfriend's friend, Talia Dunn, owes for vandalizing her property. Asia says Talia hurled a brick through her car window.
Anything else, madam?
December 5th, I went to court. When I get out of court, I have a note on my car that says trick or treat in a cuss word with a dead bird on it. The deputy came outside of the Jackson County Courthouse and removed it.
Anything else? That's it? Okay, Miss Dunn.
Well, first of all, this has started when I did meet Terrence. As far as my baby, she called me one morning and asked me about him, and I told her, yeah, I had been with him for like the past 6-7 months, and I didn't know nothing of her. So I left Terrence alone, but I was pregnant when I left him alone. He knew that this was a chance that this might have been his daughter. That's why he never left me alone for the past 2 years. We still was involved or whatever, and we still went on and did our thing. As far as me trying to destroy them, you can't kidnap the willing. He came to me. I didn't come to him. You know, and
just a second.
Who
cares?
Right, who cares?
Did you go to her house?
No, I did not.
Well, you did go to her house once and threw a brick through her, and throw a brick through her
That first
window.
time, I had no other choice. I went and I found...
Sure, of course you did. Don't tell me you had no other choice. So you threw a brick through her window. You must have been pretty angry.
No.
You weren't angry?
No.
Okay. Then you went back to her house on Easter?
No, I was at church on Easter, and she's supposed to be Muslim, so why would she even be at church?
So you didn't go to her house on Easter?
No, I did not.
Now, when you went to the courthouse for the restraining order, did you write a note and leave it on her car?
No, I did not. That is not my handwriting. I did not put a note on her car. Okay. And where did the dead bird come from?
Now, what I'd like you to stop playing with your papers, Asia. Sorry. Now, I'd like you to tell me about your counterclaim.
My counterclaim is for harassment. One night, me and him, we had been out all day, me and my sister, and me, a friend of mine, and him were out, we went shopping. She proceeded to tell him later on that she followed us all day long. So that night, I guess someone in his family, his grandmother or step-grandmother passed or something. We were at home. About 3 o'clock in the morning, the police was called to my house. So they're bamming on the door. I answered the door, and they told me they had a third-party disturbance call saying that it was a disturbance.
You're talking very fast. I'd like you to slow down.
That it was a disturbance. So they saying that this wasn't true. They went ahead, and I told them who might have been doing this. They left. Well, about 6:30 in the morning, we're getting ready to leave. She comes out the dark parking lot down the street. I stayed up the street from the park, and you could see.
I can't understand you. You're talking too fast.
There's a park. It was a park in a parking lot right down the street from my house. You can see right there, she comes out the parking lot 6:30 in the morning where she had been all night after calling the police. She sat outside my house for like 30 minutes talking to him. I let them talk.
What's next?
I mean, she's done numerous things to me. She's called me, I'm pregnant, I'm going to F you and your stuff up.
How old are you?
I mean, it's ongoing.
How old are you?
24.
How many children do you have?
I have 4 children.
How old are they?
9, 6, 4, and 1.
Who's the father of the 1-year-old?
Her father is Cortez.
And that's the one that you thought maybe Terrence was the father of?
Well, Terrence thought also.
I'm saying you thought. I don't care what Terrence thinks.
Yeah, I thought it was a possibility.
Is Cortez the father of any other of your children?
No, he's not.
How old are you?
I'm 29.
How many children do you have?
1.
Are you employed?
Yes, ma'am.
What kind of work do you do?
Accounting.
What kind of work do you do?
I'm a student.
A student of what?
Yes. I'm a student. I do apprenticeship for Dwayne Harvey Funeral Home in Kansas City, Missouri.
Who supports your children?
I do. The apprenticeship, they pay me. But it's an apprenticeship.
Listen, ladies, my sense is that each of you has been torturing the other over some worthless piece of protoplasm that we will call Terrence, who conveniently decides that he doesn't want to be part of any lawsuit involving you two women. He's just sitting back and laughing at both of you because you two women are fighting over him, and who knows how many other women are fighting over him. He's stupid enough to fight over him. I'm really sorry he's not here. I would have loved to have met him myself, and I know that Bird was really anxious to meet him. In any event, the damage to your window as a result of the brick incident, do you have a bill for that?
Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to see it, please.
All that is together.
Okay.
Side glass, black glass lock, and one key. What did you need a key for?
Because when she broke the window, it jammed to where you couldn't lift my hood up.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $440. Listen to me very, very carefully, ladies. You've allowed Terrence to make a fool out of you because you're here exposing the lunacy of fighting with each other over somebody who's totally and completely worthless. Worthless, without value. How are you related to her?
This is my sister.
That you said, sit down.
Okay.
Sit down. Sit
No,
down.
but I want to say something.
You can't say anything.
In honor of
You
my
can't say
sister.
anything. You can't say anything.
She went through the bottle.
You can't. I don't want you to say anything.
You shut up.
Shh. Excuse me? Shh.
Your Honor.
Listen to me very carefully. You want to go on a talk show. You made the wrong turn. You keep your mouth shut in my courtroom. Do you understand? Do you understand? You too. I have only one provable claim. That one provable claim is for $440. But if you're going to allow this man to continue to make a fool out of you by doing anything to each other, then you're not as smart as I think you are. You're old. Quiet! You're old enough to make a child. You made 4. You have 1. You have a responsible job. Maybe one day you'll get one. If you continue with this kind of behavior, you are setting a poor example for your children, for your families, and just stop it. Say it's over. He's not worth it.
I would like for her to leave me alone.
Why don't you start listening, receiving, instead of talking?
Your Honor, you haven't listened to nothing that I have
I
over here.
listen
She's
to
done
you.
The same thing. She's done the same thing.
Listen to me.
I have cracked windshields. I have all that same stuff.
Did she ever police? Just listen to me.
Yes, I do have a police report for that.
I don't care about a police report.
And her stalking and harassing me, sleeping in parks,
Listen to
being
me.
up and down the street all day long, and I'm supposed to keep letting her do this?
Get over it.
I am over it. She won't get over it because he's not with her.
Miss Dunn, anybody who has 4 children, starting with a 9-year-old, isn't too smart to begin with. And your conduct today just exemplifies to me that you are going to continue to be stupid. You have to be able to say, I made a mistake with this man.
To be done
or
with.
what? You keep talking. You just keep talking. I made a mistake with this man. I'm not going to have anything to do with this man anymore, and I'm not going to have anything to do with her. You owe her the money because you pled guilty to throwing a brick through her windshield. You are therefore liable. If you can tell me that she pled guilty or was convicted of any crime involving damage to your property, I will hear you. Other than that, I have no interest in hearing any of your complaints. Do you understand?
Yes,
No. Did she plead guilty to any crime against you?
She
no.
hasn't been picked up yet.
Good. She did not. Goodbye. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $440. Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
If she had her other men and she was kicking it, living it up like I've been doing, this wouldn't hurt her.
I put my man out. I'll let the dogs lay with the dogs. It's not about that. I don't want him.
I get up in here and this is what I get. So other words, hey, give us permission to get in the boxing ring.
I don't have to get ghetto or ignorant to prove my point, which I did today.
If it was the end of it, it would have been the end of it when he left her. She wouldn't have came at me with any more stuff after he left.
Basically, it's about class and not trash. I'm basically a diva from 816 popping my collar. Documentation really the nation. Obviously, she knows nothing about. The only thing she knows about is other people's men and wet food stamps.
Your Honor, this is case number 401 on the calendar in the matter of Dawson versus Wade. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Ma'am, have a seat, please.
Mr. Dawson, you are the head of a church group,
No, I'm not a head. I'm just one of the members of the church group.
and you?
I'm a member also. I'm his wife.
According to your complaint, your church group sold a van at auction at a charity event. Is that right?
Yes, we donated to...
You donated... Shh, put your hand down. Explain that to me. You had a van.
Right.
The van was the church's van, and it had a logo on it.
Yes, we retired it.
She bought the van at auction. Put your hand down, madam, and stop moving around. You're making me very seasick. Just be quiet and behave. So far, you're not losing, but don't irritate me. The money that was retrieved from this auction went back to the church?
Yes.
So you sold the van. She bought the van. Your lawsuit involves a request to have her remove and paint the logo so that nobody can see that it belonged to the church. Is that right?
Yes.
Why?
Reason being is that we have an outreach ministry that we do a work out in Los Angeles County, and our name is vividly seen in the neighborhoods, and that's the reason why...
And it was on the van?
Yes.
You have a picture of the van?
Yes, I do.
Let me take a look at the picture of the van with the logo on it. While I'm looking at that, Mr. Dawson, who was in charge of making the arrangements to give the van out for auction?
The pastor of our ministry.
All right, now I see it. It's got your name all over it. Now I see it. How much did you pay for it?
I paid $800.
Good. And when you got it, it had these markings on it?
Yes, it did.
And you don't want the markings on it?
No.
Not in her possession?
No.
So why don't you take them off before you sold it?
Well...
What does that have to do with her? Where are you people coming from? Put your hand down a second. Where are you people coming from? You want to sell this, you turn it over to an auctioneer, they sell it, and now you're suing her. Stop, listen to me, Miss Wade, if you don't give me the attitude. I am totally unimpressed with your attitude, and it's irritating. You don't want to pass this along to somebody? You paint it over before you sell it. Do you understand?
Yes, I understand, but they had made an agreement that they would be taken off before...
Who made the agreement?
The auctioneer, the person who would purchase the van, would take it off.
Who made the arrangement? You made the arrangement with her, or somebody made the arrangement with the auction house?
With the auction house.
Sue them! What are you suing her for?
Can I say something?
What?
The reason we're suing her is because our ministry is very popular throughout Southern California, Anaheim, even in San Diego. We do a very good work with children, gang prevention, youth.
Very nice. What? Keep going.
The reason I'm saying this is because they're going around in our van representing our ministry, cursing, screaming, yelling.
Miss Dawson.
Yes, ma'am.
They are not representing your ministry. She's driving around in a van that she bought, that your ministry failed to ensure did not have its logo on it because it turned it over to an auction house to sell it with the logo on it. And if you didn't want the logo on it, paint it before you sell it.
I understand that, ma'am.
Period. End of discussion. She's not holding herself out to be your ministry. She's driving around in a van she purchased. You want her to spend more than $800?
Yes, she is. She's representing our ministry. She said that she takes the youth around in our ministries. They like it on there. They don't want to take it off. We offered to take it off for them, to take it off professionally, and they said no. He likes it on there. He was belligerent. He cursed. He threatened my pastor's wife. He called the church.
That's it. He liked it.
Yeah, but it's
representing
our ministry. It's representing our ministry. We get calls from all over the Southern California area, from Torrance to Los Angeles, complaining that how could our ministry do something like that, curse with children around? We don't do that. They're misrepresenting our ministry, and they won't take it off. Who would want to drive around with a Youth Action for Christ Jesus sign when they don't even represent Christ? We represent Christ.
Let me, madam, give you an example that maybe you will understand.
Yes, ma'am.
The Beatles used to tour this country on a bus.
Yes, ma'am.
And they had the word Beatles on the bus. Trademark. Now, let us say at the end of their tour, they decided that they had no further need for this bus, and they were going to sell it. And they put an ad in the paper. Take away the third party, the auction house. They put an ad in the paper. I see this ad and I say, gee, I would really like to have a Beatles bus. I'd like to have a bus that I knew the Beatles drove around in, and that had their name on it, that had their pictures on it. I want that. And I'm prepared to spend the money for it. So I answer the ad. They say the bus is $25,000. I say, sold. That's what I want. I want to take my kids touring, my kids and my grandchildren. I want to be stuck in a bus with my grandchildren, right, touring the country in this Beatles bus. Paul McCartney says, you got to take, after I pay the $25,000, oh, you got to take our name off the bus.
I understand.
I said, oh, no, you want to sell this bus without your name on it, take it off. I bought it with the name on it.
I understand.
It's my bus.
Yes, ma'am.
She bought the whole package.
She sure did.
And if your minister made a mistake by not removing the logo before he turned it over for sale, that's his problem.
Can I clarify something? My husband failed to mention that my minister was responsible for letting us take the van. We were responsible for taking the names off. We failed, and we're trying to take care of it now. My ministry is not responsible for it.
You can't.
I called the police, and they said the only thing I could do is go to small claims court to petition to them to take it off. She met with my husband, and she was very nice about saying okay.
What I'm telling you is, if she wants to, she can.
If
you want to give her money, maybe if you give her money, she'll say, fine, I'll take it off. Maybe $400 would make it feel better for me. Well, maybe, but you cannot require her. Because
we didn't require. We asked her, and she was very nice. She was very humble, and she said, "Sure, to come take it off." We called her husband. He said, "Who do you think you are calling my house? You're not going to take anything." He cursed. He said, "If you say another word, I'm going to hang up in your face."
I heard you, Miss Dawson. You're not listening to me.
I'm sorry.
You're not listening to me. If it was your responsibility, you didn't take care of your responsibility. You can't clean it up now. I'm telling you, you cannot require her to take off the logo from the bus because you don't like the language she uses or somebody uses when they're in the bus driving around. You cannot require her to do that.
It's not just the language.
I don't care what it is. I don't care if she was mooning people when she was driving around with your bus.
I understand
you
that.
cannot require her to do it.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
He pulled out the razor blade and was starting to proceed to take the lettering off my van. And I was like, wait a minute, hold up. You can't take this off my car right now.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Anthony Dawson and his wife Kimlin are suing Danye Wade for misrepresenting herself as part of their ministry. The Dawsons say Danye purchased a van from their church and refuses to remove the logo.
Now, you may pay her and say to her, listen, let's enter into an agreement, and perhaps I will, I'll give you money. You want some money to remove this from the bus?
Yes, if they want.
Just a minute. Let's,
okay.
Here we go. How much money do you want?
I want 15 for it. 1,500 for it.
Well, you only paid 800.
Can I explain why?
No, just a minute. You only paid 800. So explain to me. Explain to me why you want 15. You're going to. Let me explain something. You're going to get nothing.
Okay.
Because
okay,
what I'm trying to do is to make an arrangement that will satisfy everybody.
Okay.
It would have to be a voluntary arrangement. Do you understand? Not something that's loony.
Okay.
So, if you want some money so that they will paint it, give it a nice fresh coat of paint, that sounds reasonable to me.
Okay, but may I explain to you the reason why I want 15 for it?
Sure.
Okay, because first of all, when I bought the van was $800. I paid $400 to register the car. Didn't have a problem. When I bought the van, my intentions was to take the lettering off because I didn't want it. I wanted to paint it in one color, and I couldn't afford it. I just didn't have the money to buy it. Okay, one day I was shopping at a store. I came out my store to this man right here, this minister, at my van, doing something to my van. Okay, when I got to you wasn't even there.
Oh, yes, she was.
Just a second. Put your hand down.
Some little girl. Okay.
Listen to me.
Okay. I'm
sorry.
Say okay.
I'm sorry.
Okay, so
I don't want you. Okay. I don't want you to talk to them. You talk to me. Okay. You understand? You came out of a store. What was he doing to your van?
At that time, I didn't know what he was doing because when I walked out the store, I could see him at the van, and as I got closer to the van, he was walking away, and then when I got to the van, me and my son, he walked towards me, and I asked him what was he doing. And he was like, he identified himself, I'm the minister of this church, and I thought when they sold you the van, they took the lettering off of it. And I was like, no, they didn't. I bought this like this, but I have intentions on taking it off. And he asked me, he was like, well, can I take it off? I was like, sure. I gave him the number. I said, let's make arrangements. And he pulled out the razor blade and was like, you pulled out the, He
Did
pulled
you
out the
understand?
razor blade, and I can describe exactly what kind of razor blade. It was like a box cutter. He pulled out the razor blade and was starting to proceed to take the lettering off my van, and I was like, wait a minute, hold up. My baby looking in the car, he looking out the window. I'm like, you can't take this off my car right now. You cannot do this. We have to make arrangements. I just told you to call me. I jumped in my car. I put off. I went home. I told my neighbors and everything. I was like, you won't believe what just happened to me.
Now
Okay,
I understand.
I'm sorry.
So, just a second.
I'm like, you won't believe what just... Okay.
Miss Wade, now you told me what happened. Now, you're moving around, you're making me very, very dizzy. Either one of two things are going to happen today. Either I'm just going to send you both packing because they have no case. You have no case on a counterclaim. If you are prepared to have them pay to repaint the van, how much are you prepared to accept so that they will be happy and according to you, you will be happy? And don't tell me $1,500 because $1,500 is going to buy you the door.
Okay, can I say something now? He took letters off the van. It's letters off the van. His name is off the van.
Fine.
Half of his letters. I didn't tell him to do that. I told him let's make arrangements.
Fine. Listen to me very carefully, Miss Wade. Let me ask you this. Miss Wade, you're not following what I'm saying. I asked you for a figure. So, how much will it cost to paint the van?
Well, I went to Earl Shy and they said $600 to repaint
Good.
the car.
$600 to repaint it. Now, Mr. and Mrs. Dawson, are you prepared to spend $600 to correct your mistake? Is the question. The answer is either yes or no, you're not. You have no case. So she wants $600 so that she can, or you can, take it where they paint cars and have it painted.
We offer to have it removed professionally. We don't want to pay $600 to have it removed.
Bye.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
They sit there and act like he didn't pull out the razor blade.
We wouldn't even use a scraper. We were going to use a blow dryer on our property. It doesn't even work like that to remove it professionally.
Right. We had someone who was going to
That
take
was a
it off.
lie.
They sitting here acting, putting on this show, acting like they didn't do it and act like I'm just so innocent. No, you're not innocent, not at all. You are hypocrites.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Robert versus Joseph Oski, step forward, please.
Student Kathy Robert is suing her former friend, freelance event coordinator Marion Josephowski, for the value of her pets. Marion is countersuing for harassment and lost wages.
Miss Robert, the defendant was a friend of yours, according to you, and agreed to do some pet sitting for you.
That's correct.
And according to you, she sold your pets to a local pet store. You want to be compensated for the pets. The defendant says that she did, in fact, agree to watch your animals for you for a day. It ended up being 3 weeks. She couldn't keep them anymore. She is counterclaiming alleging harassment. So why don't you tell me when and under what circumstances she agreed to do this pet sitting for you?
She agreed originally to do it for me on July 8th. I came over and left my animals on July 16th. It was supposed to be...
Okay. What kind of animals were they?
I had 3 birds, 1 bunny, and a small fish aquarium.
3 birds, 1 rabbit, and 1 fish tank?
Small aquarium, yes.
Well, what was in the aquarium?
Some guppies.
Is this just a bowl?
Mm-hmm, a bowl.
So you're talking about a fish bowl, hardly an aquarium.
No.
3 birds, what kind of birds?
A plumhead parakeet and a white-faced cockatiel and a albino parakeet.
Why did you tell her you needed her to watch the animals for you?
I was moving out and my apartment wasn't ready yet, and I couldn't put the animals where I was going to be staying, so she agreed to take care of them, and I gave her $50 to do that.
Did she give you $50?
No, ma'am. She gave me $25, a check which she asked me not to cash for several days, which I complied with.
Does that sound right to you?
No, because she had a closed bank account and I couldn't give her a check, so I gave her cash on different times. That's not true.
What do you mean you gave her cash at different times?
I gave her $25 initially, and then whenever I would come over to visit, I'd give her $10.
All right, so initially you did give her $25.
Initially.
Okay. Now, you brought the animals over on the 16th?
Correct.
Then what happened?
And then I came over to visit once a week. She knew that she would be watching the birds for about 3.5 weeks.
Don't tell me what you knew. Did she come over once a week?
About that.
Fine. How many weeks did you visit?
3.
When did you tell her you wanted the animals back?
I had asked her if she could watch them till about August 15th, but she said that she needed me to come pick them up about August 8th. So I said, okay. And I tried to call her August 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th. Never got a phone call back from her at all.
Well, when was the last time you had visited your animals?
I believe it was July 31st, and I went over on July 31st, and my bunny wasn't there. She said that the bunny was being cared for by her ex-husband, which we later found out was a lie. They were over at her little girl's friend's house, and we went there approximately 6 weeks later and picked it up from the little girl's friend's house.
Okay, so the bunny you got back?
The bunny I got back, and I bought back one bird from
Just a
the pet
minute,
store.
bunny you now have?
The bunny I have.
What happened with the birds? Because it's the birds that we're talking about.
Well, Your Honor, she did ask me to watch them, but it was only for, quote, a few days at the most.
Okay, but she came to visit. According to what you just testified to, she would come once a week. So you knew it was more than one day, because that's what you say in your answer.
Initially, it was 1 to 3 days.
Okay, but it turned out to be more than that.
Correct.
And you knew it was more than that because she came to visit once a week, according to you.
Right.
You said that. So why did you give away her animals?
Because
Or sell
I
them?
told her, each time she came to visit me, I told her that she needed to pick them up by the 12th. By the 12th of August, I needed them gone because my landlord did not allow me to have pets. And she said, if I can't have...
Would you look at me?
If I can't have a place for them to stay, then can you find someone to watch them for me? And so I found someone else to take care of them, and they, in turn, got rid of the birds. I did not. I just did what she asked me to do.
Who did you give the birds to?
A friend.
Give me the friend's name.
Jeff is his name.
And you gave Jeff the birds when?
On the 14th, when I was moving out. After I waited for her to come, and she did not because my door was ajar open all day because I was fixing the door so that I could move out and get my deposit
Your
back.
Honor, I was there on the 15th, and she told me that the
And
birds were at
excuse
her
me.
mother's house, and she gave me a fake phone number. I was there the day after she's saying that.
She told you that the birds
she
were at
gave
her
them
mother's house?
Yep.
Did you ever find out what happened to the birds?
I found one of them in a pet store, and I have no idea what happened to the plumhead. I have no idea.
How did you find one of the birds in a pet store?
I heard them arguing in the background. I called up once, and she said, well, I really don't have your birds. Jeff really has them. And she started arguing with Jeff in the background, and he goes, well, I can't get them back. I sold them to Birdland.
All right, you want to tell me about your counterclaim?
Yes, ma'am. Kathy called everyone I know, telling them that if they ever wanted to see me alive again, that they should tell me to give her birds back. And she also threatened my family. She told me, just give me your laptop and I will leave you and your family alone.
And you offered to give me your laptop.
She told my daughter that she was going to come to her school if I didn't give her anything in return for her birds being sold, which she knew that I did not sell.
That's not true.
And threatening me, and she made me lose a babysitting job I had because I had a 3-year-old there, and she was screaming at my face. She was right here telling me she was going to trash my car and she wasn't going to leave us alone. And
you had no right to give anybody her animals. This isn't a situation where she left these animals with you, totally unattended. She never came back. I'm speaking. The $25 that she gave you more than covered any food for 3 birds and a rabbit for 3 weeks. So there's no question that you didn't have any out-of-pocket expenses, even if she didn't give you any more money. I mean, bird seed and rabbit food, $25 worth goes a very, very long way. So what you had to do was just return them to her and get them out of your house.
But she asked me, Your Honor.
You chose not to do that. You chose to give them to somebody who was unreliable.
No.
That's boyfriend Jeff.
Excuse me, Your
And
Honor.
if Jeff, no, now
Excuse
you
me, Your
listen
Honor.
to me. And if Jeff sold them, you are responsible. You agreed to take care of her pets and you chose
Until
not
a
to
certain
do that.
time. Until a certain time, Your Honor.
No,
She
you
agreed.
chose not to do that.
She agreed to pick them up on the 12th, Your Honor.
And you chose a path that was wrong because you had another path that you could have chosen, which was to take the animals, 3 birds, because you already didn't have the rabbit, and take them to where she was living and say,
I did not know
here
where
they
she was
are,
living.
then pick up a phone and call her.
I knew her for 3 weeks before all this happened. She just starts dumping her stuff and all of her pets on me, and
She
I was
didn't
just
dump
trying to help
anything
her.
on you, madam. According to you, she would come by once a week to visit them. You told me that. That's what you told me for 3 weeks.
And she...
That's what you told me. So this wasn't just here, take my animals and I'll come and get them when I want to. She gave them to you. She did the responsible thing. She gave them to you with money. Then she came once a week to see them and probably gave you an extra couple of bucks too, although you don't acknowledge that.
However,
even if she didn't, she gave you enough to take care of them. You had a responsibility
And
to
I
do
did
the
take
right
care of
thing. You did not. She's going to get what she asks for, which is $560. And as far as your counterclaim is concerned, you didn't do the right thing. You don't get a penny for harassment. Goodbye.
Yeah, this is case number 387 on.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Coker versus Coker. Step forward, please.
Homemaker Wanda Coker is suing her ex-daughter-in-law, restaurant manager Charlotta Coker, for unpaid rent, living expenses, and the cost of a freezer.
Mrs. Coker, the defendant is your former daughter-in-law.
Yes.
Who are you, sir?
I'm her son, her ex-husband.
According to your complaint, you believe that your former daughter-in-law owes you for some rent, for some miscellaneous expenses, and for a freezer that she promised you.
Yes, they had moved back.
Just a minute. When were you divorced from your husband?
It was finalized September 19th.
And when did you separate from him?
December 20th of last year.
And how long were you married?
We were married for 5 years.
Do you have any children together?
Yes, we do.
How many?
We have one.
How old is that child?
He's 6.
Who does he live with?
He lives with me.
Is that correct?
We have joint custody.
Who does he live with the majority of the week?
It's about 50-50.
Okay, so you live close by
Yes,
to each other.
yes.
All right, Miss Coker, you want to tell me when your daughter-in-law lived with you that you claim she owes you rent?
They came back in June right after school had gotten out last year.
Who's they?
Her and her 2 children, actually her 3 children, and my son were moving back here to get a divorce because it would be cheaper to move all their stuff together.
And they came to live with you?
She and the 2 kids did. Then she went back along with my son to pack their belongings and have them transported back, but she had left her 2 older children with me.
What period of time do you allege she owes you rent for? Give me the month and year.
From June through December.
June of 01 through December of 01.
Right.
And was she living with you alone or with your son?
No, he was in rehab. He had went to rehab.
For alcohol, I see.
Right.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
The freezer's still at her house. I didn't tell her she couldn't have it. I just want to say that it's my freezer. She told me I could have it.
I don't know what you want. You want me to make a judgment as to whose freezer it is? I don't have to do that.
To live with Wanda when her husband entered rehab.
Okay. Is that correct? When you came back in June, he was planning to go into rehab?
He was planning on it, yes. And it was in July
that he went.
When we came back to Wichita.
In July, you came back as a family.
We came back as a family. We weren't coming back to get a divorce. We were coming back as a family, trying to work things out.
And you were going to live with your mother-in-law?
Yes, stay there until we could get a job, get on our feet, yes.
Right. What arrangement do you claim there was for rent?
When they moved all their things back, she had told me that she had a deep freeze that I could have for part of the rent.
You mean while your son was in rehab?
Right. Well,
yeah, go ahead.
Right.
Go ahead. So
in the meantime, when they were here, they had this dog that she had brought back that tore up my back storm door.
What do you mean she had brought back? Where was your son? Did he come back too?
He had came back, but he went into rehab.
Just a second. He came back, and they brought a dog. Is that right?
Right.
All of them as a family. Your son, your daughter-in-law, your grandchild, and her 2 children. They all came back together with a dog.
But then she flew back out and decided she was not coming back to Kansas. She was going to make her home in Washington.
Okay. When was that?
That was about July.
All right. How long was she gone in July?
Probably a month.
So then she came back in August?
The latter part of August.
What period of time, I'm saying to you, do you claim she owes you rent for?
At least 4 months.
What 4 months?
For June, she didn't.
She doesn't owe you any money for June. Get it from him. July? She doesn't owe you any money for July. You haven't told me you had an agreement with her. Get your rent from him. Now, when did she come back by herself?
It was the 1st of October.
She came back by herself.
October. I know it was before Halloween.
She came back October 1st.
It was in October, yes.
Where was he?
He was in rehab.
Okay. And what did she say to you when she came back in October?
She told me that they had that deep freeze that I could have for part of the rent. She could not afford to pay me anything.
So what are you suing her for rent for? You're suing her for rent.
Well, the children weren't my grandchildren, and
So what? You have to have an agreement for rent, madam. You don't have it. You didn't have an
She was the one
agreement.
that told me that I could have the deep freeze for
Not
part
talking
of
about
rent.
the freezer, madam. You said rent.
That was for part of the rent.
Miss Coker, you're not following me, madam. I mean, I think that your whole lawsuit is ridiculous. You're suing the mother of one of your grandchildren when there is a divorce, and it appears to me that your son and your former daughter-in-law have a reasonable enough relationship to share custody, and you are foolish enough to sue her for a deep freeze. Foolish enough. Now, I don't understand that. She
Well,
comes to your house. Your son is an alcoholic. He's going into rehab. He's not providing for his family. She has a baby and 2 other children, right? She's trying to keep it all together. And you're suing her for a deep freeze? Where is your brain? Where is your
Ma'am,
mind?
I have proof that the dog tore up my back door.
He brought the dog.
No,
he brought
did
the
not.
dog.
The
Of
dog
course
was
he
not
did.
his. The dog was
Listen
hers.
to me. According to you, they came back in June with the dog. If you didn't want the dog, you say to your son, get rid of the dog. You don't complain a year later and say the dog ripped apart my screen door. You say to your son, you can come back with your wife and the children, but you have to leave the dog home.
He tried to get rid of it.
What?
He tried to get rid of the dog, and she wouldn't let him.
Then you say you all have to leave.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Listen to me, madam. You are a very foolish woman. You have a grandchild. I don't know how many grandchildren you have, but it appears to me, I'm going to say it again, these 2 people don't appear to me to be at odds with each other. They share custody of a child, 50% custody, and there shouldn't be any problem with you mixing up trouble between the 2 of them so that he comes to sit to testify on your behalf against her. That's just not smart. So I have heard nothing with regard to rent. She didn't agree to pay any rent. He's responsible for necessaries for his children. He wasn't providing for necessaries for his children because he's an alcoholic and he was in rehab. During that time, you filled in for him. You're a very good mother. Now, let's talk about the freezer. Did you promise her a freezer?
No, I did not.
All right. What did you say to her with regard to the freezer?
Nothing. We brought it over to her house so we could put extra food in it because her freezer wasn't big enough for all 6 of us.
And when you left, what did you do with the freezer?
The freezer's still at her house. I haven't got it yet.
You still have the freezer at your house?
I didn't tell her she couldn't have it. I just want to say that it's my freezer. She told me I could have it for part of the rent.
Just a second. Shh, oh, be quiet. Just a second. Are you going back to get the freezer?
Yes. I mean, what does she need a freezer for? There's
Listen.
only one in her family.
Listen to me. I don't know what you want. You want me to make a judgment as to whose freezer it is? I don't have to do that. I don't have to do that. I don't know why you're here, Mrs. Coker. All I can say to you is you better wisen up. You have a grandchild. You want to maintain a reasonable relationship with the mother of your grandchild? I would suggest that you don't get into a contest with her about whose freezer it is. Goodbye.
This is case number.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Hollis versus Kirkland. Step forward, please.
Inventory Control Clerk Lori Hollis is suing her former live-in boyfriend, salesman Alex Kirkland, for unpaid rent and bills. Alex says this is revenge for their breakup.
Ms. Hollis, according to your complaint, a couple of years ago, the defendant lived with you. I assume you were in some sort of a relationship when he came to live with you. You say that he owes you money for rent and other bills. Mr. Kirkland says he doesn't owe you a thing, that you never had an agreement with regard to rent, and when he was working, he gave you money. Is that right, sir?
That's correct.
Okay. When did you move in together, or he moved in with you?
June 10th, 2001.
And how long did you know him before he moved in with you?
From October 1999 for a little over a year and a half.
Why did he move in with you?
He had gotten into a situation where he needed a place to live. And
I don't know what that means.
He had broken up with his girlfriend at the time and he needed a place to live. He was moving out of his place. And so I offered to let him stay with me.
So he wasn't your boyfriend at the time, he was
No.
just a friend?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
And we had an agreement that he was supposed to pay me $450 a month plus, half of the living expenses, utilities. And about 10 days, I think it was like the 25th of June, he had lost his job. And he lost his job under circumstances which prevented him from being able to collect unemployment. I was a friend of his, and I had faith that he would get a job soon and, and be able to adhere to our agreement. But he stayed unemployed all the way through March 2002.
That's your problem. That's your problem.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Soon after he did get a job, he picked up and left.
He's consistent.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Lori Hollis says ex-boyfriend Alex Kirkland owes for rent and bills. Alex says Lori is a vengeful woman.
Let me tell you what you just told me. You just told me that he broke up with his girlfriend and he had to move out of her apartment. Right? I assume it was her apartment because she wasn't leaving. He was being forced out. Is that right? That's why he came to live with you.
Well, I don't know the circumstances of their relationship. So
well, certainly he needed the place to live. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Then, as soon as he got to your house, he lost his job. And when you say he lost a job under circumstances under which he could not collect unemployment, which means he didn't leave voluntarily. He left because he got caught doing something wrong. Well, if you get caught doing something wrong, then maybe you can't collect unemployment, because if you get fired, and if you've had a work history, then you can collect unemployment. So now you have faith in him that he's going to get a job, but he doesn't get a job. So you can, if he's just your friend, you say to him, toodaloo. Well, but you decided not to. So why are you here a year and a half later looking for rent?
Well, all the time that he was staying with me, well, in September of 2001, he decided, he instigated a conversation with me to take our relationship further, because we had been friends for a real long time. We cared about each other, and I loved him. So
that's why you let him stay.
I let him stay.
That's why you let him stay.
And he continually told me that, don't worry, you'll get a job and he'll pay me what he owes me, and so on. But soon after he did get a job, he picked up and left. And
he's consistent. He's consistent. So what are you complaining about?
Well, the fact that
you cared for him. He evidently was not committed.
I do have a signed rental agreement by him, though.
Let me see it. When did you have him sign a rental agreement?
Well, I tried to use it as so in a child support hearing to prevent his child support from being raised.
Were you involved in the child support dispute, sir?
Yes.
Is that why you signed this agreement?
That is why I signed that agreement.
So, according to this, you owe her for a year's rent.
According to that.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
And?
I didn't really remember signing that agreement. And once she brings it, now that she brings it up, the reason that I signed it was to take into court to show that I was living at a place and everything was on the up and up, and for them not to raise the child support, which they did anyway. It had really nothing to do with rent. She agreed to help me knowing the situation that I was in. I did pay her. I signed my complete checks over to her once I started working, and I didn't move out right after I got a job.
When you say you signed your complete checks over to her, how often did he do that? How many times did he sign his complete checks over to you?
He did the first check he got in April. He did, because we were kind of in the rears at rent at the time.
So how much was that?
I don't know how much.
How much was that? Do you remember?
I believe it was around $500 from what I had left from the child support.
Mm-hmm.
And he moved out in July 15th.
Okay. Mr. Kirkland, what you're suggesting is that you took this piece of paper. You were sworn to tell the truth.
That's correct.
And the judge asked you what your expenses were?
Yes, he did. I told him that I wasn't working, and those are expenses that were against me.
You gave this to the judge when you were under oath and said, these are my expenses.
Yes.
My rent is $450 a month.
That's correct.
I need this for transportation. I need this for clothing. Is that right?
That's correct.
So now you're coming into this court, and you're telling me in this court that this was merely meant to fool the judge in the child support proceeding.
That's not correct.
Of course that's correct. That you furnished this document to the judge in the child support hearing in the hopes that they would not raise your child support, but that this agreement was false. You were not supposed to pay $450 a month rent. So you furnished this to the judge in that hearing in order to fool that judge. Your fair statement?
I guess that would be a fair statement.
Good. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $5,000.